Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Tuesday, April 1st, aka April Fool's Day. I don't have a good April Fool's joke. I've already got fooled by a bunch of them I've seen on Twitter. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get fooled by a bunch more in the chat. You guys are going to be like, oh, look, Robinhood's at $70 or something great, and I'm going to buy into it. But yeah, I don't have an April Fool's joke, so you don't have to expect anything crazy from me. I'm not going to be able to get you guys today. I definitely think one of you guys is going to get me somehow. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. But yes, I don't have any crazy joke for you guys today. My boss got me bad this morning. Yeah, dude, I am like such a gullible person when it comes to April Fools. Like I've believed some like dumb April Fools jokes over the past couple of years. Like I believed one this morning, dude. I was scrolling on Twitter. I was like, oh my gosh. And I click into it. I'm like, this is April Fool's. This is so stupid. But hopefully I am, we're muted. Oh my God, bro. I told you it would happen, dude. But that's because I'm so scared about freaking the audio. I cannot believe it's not even 30 seconds into the freaking. I hate this, bro. I really hate this. Like that was the most obvious, like, hey, that's like, I could have easily been like, yeah, you guys are funny. Especially because I checked them. I deliberately checked the mic just to make sure before we went live. Well, there you go. April Fools. There it is, dude. Like, dude, you don't understand. When you guys say muted, my heart drops. Like, literally because imagine just talking and like, you know, like just no one can hear you. And it's just like, I've been through that enough times to like not want to go through it again. literally went through it last week twice in one day. You know, it's just like, it's not good to be muted. So you guys are definitely going to get me again later. I could tell. You can be like, oh, your screen's not sharing. And then I'm going to believe you because StreamYard's being stupid. They introduced this dumbass feature where I now have to, I think I got the hang of it though. I think I got the hang of it now. So hopefully I'll be okay. Anyway, look, let's get into the markets. We've got a rather flat to neutral pre-market, I would say. Nothing too crazy going on. We do have a little bit of a rebound from yesterday. We did end off green yesterday, which was great. And it was nice to see us ending off green. We're down about 0.5% right now. Part of that is because of what Trump said last night. Part of that also has to do with some macro headlines that we'll get into. But yesterday was a nice reversal. 546 to 560 by the end of the day. It was very nice to see that momentum. Tesla's up 1.55%. We got a lot of updates on Tesla registrations in China and the EU, so we'll be talking about that in a bit and get into it. SoFi's down about 0.5%. Nvidia's up 0.27, went from 103 to 108. I did buy the Nvidia dip at 105 yesterday, so we'll see if Nvidia can hold its momentum. And then pretty much everything else is like flat, right? Palantir is down 0.25. Robinhood's up 0.112. Apple ended up going green yesterday, up 2%. Now it's down 1%. Gold is up a little bit again today. Bitcoin, 83.6. That's up. SMCI is up 0.5%. I mean, there's nothing too crazy happening in the pre-market. And I think when 9:30 opens, we'll see how the market's thinking of the April 2nd deadline for, which is tomorrow, on tariffs. Now, Newsmax, this is a company that, of course, it's up 23% in the pre-markets. Why not? Why not? So we didn't get to talk about this yesterday. I didn't even know they were IPOing. But like, yeah, you guys are going to get me. Figured IPO this summer. Good try. Grab acquired go-to. Good try. I'm like, you got me with the muted. You're not getting me again. There's no way you're getting me again. You got me with the muted though. Because that one, like, I care about you guys. I don't want you to like not have any audio. So that one you got me. But all these other ones, like, you're not going to get me with those. Anyway, Newsmax, I didn't even know they were going public. So, I mean, if you guys depend on this show for kind of updates around the market, you probably didn't know about it either because I didn't know about it. Literally, the market open ended and I just checked Twitter and it was like Newsmax up 700%. I was like, what? Actually, it was up 200%. Then it was up 400%. Then it was up 700%. I was like, what is going on? 700%? It's up another, as you can see right here, 23%, $104. The stock IPO'd at $10. It is currently up 10x in a day. I mean, there are so many things to say about this. My number one thing is that, or I have two kind of core pieces of analysis here. Either there is a Newsmax cult, which for those that don't know, it's a cable TV company that is very conservative. So either there's a MAGA Newsmax cult on Reddit or something that came up with the idea to just pump this thing to the moon, or we are in a super risk-on environment for a freaking cable media company to go up 10x in a day. And this whole idea of recession, yada yada. I mean, Newsmax doesn't look like that's happening. I mean, that's just very weird to see a stock like that 10x in a day. Even if the stock was up 30%, it would be like, it's a very successful IPO. And it's one of the best performing stocks of the year now. So I don't know. Either it's a lot of risk on appetite that's happening in the sort of new IPOs that are coming to market. That's not what we're seeing with the CoreWeaves of the world, which CoreWeave would have loved seeing that happen. But Newsmax seems more like a meme stock. CoreWeave seems more like a legit company, not a meme stock. And so maybe that's why Newsmax is getting that treatment over CoreWeave. Kind of like Fartcoin. Yeah, it is weird, dude. It is weird. Even if Trump and his buddies are pumping Newsmax, which I haven't seen them tweet about it or anything like that. This one was unnatural. This one was just like, it IPO'd at 10, went immediately to 25, then 35, then 55. Then by the end of the day, it was at 75. Then after hours, it was 83. Now it's at 100. So it's one of those things where it's like, was this a coordinated effort, or did it kind of just catch lightning in a bottle and get that steam? I wouldn't have bought it anyway. So even if you guys knew about it, because even if I had told you guys about it on the show, I doubt a lot of you guys would have taken a stab at it. I definitely wouldn't have. But if you did, you've done well. Now I'm waiting for the options change to open so we can get some puts on this thing, because this is just the options are not open yet. I don't know when they open up on this one. It might be like a week, but this is kind of stupid, dude. Like, this is kind of dumb. This is like, I just don't think it's sustainable to be up 10x in less than 48 hours. But by the time the options open up, I don't even know if it'll still be at this price. So we'll see. I'll let you guys know if I buy any puts on this. But yeah, there is something going on here. It definitely feels like a new kind of GameStop situation. It's just going to be a question of how the market ultimately decides to treat this over the coming days. Again, it just really surprised me, dude. I did not expect Newsmax. Now, if this was like a liberal TV network, I don't think the same thing would happen. I really do think there's kind of like a MAGA element to that, MAGA trade to this as well. Maybe that's also getting momentum. It's more like DJT, correct? It's more like DJT, but they're an actual business. I think they did like $1 billion in revenue, so they actually have momentum, 10 years in the business. But do they deserve to be trading at this valuation? I don't know. That's a little aggressive. A little aggressive. 76 million shares. I thought it was only 7.5 million shares. That makes more sense. 76 million shares. Okay. So yeah, they barely issued it. They only raised 760 million bucks. It wasn't like some crazy IPO where they were trying to raise a ton of money. So yeah, as a result, they did not issue a ton of stock right here. But Newsmax, I'm sure those directors are pretty happy seeing this thing at $100 now. All right, so let's talk about tariffs from last night real quick, and then we'll get into Tessie, because we got about a bunch of updates there. Well, I mean, this is the only update on tariffs last night. What's his name? Trump was asked about it again, and this is what he had to say about tariffs. So let's go to this, and then we will keep going from there.
Different individual tariff rates on a whole variety of different.
Well, you're going to see in 2 days, which is maybe tomorrow night or probably Wednesday. You're going to see, and they're reciprocal. So whatever they charge us, we charge them, but we're being nicer than they were. We have a lot of countries, friend and foe. I always say friend and foe, but the friend in many cases is worse than the foe. They took advantage of us, and we are going to be very nice by comparison to what they were. The numbers will be lower than what they've been charging us, and in some cases maybe substantially lower, but we sort of have a world obligation perhaps. But we're going to be very nice. Relatively speaking, we're going to be very kind.
Mr. President, you met with the chairman.
Somebody said that about me the other day. He said, who doesn't know me very well, they said, you're such a kind person. And I said, say that again. They said, you're a kind person. I said, I've never heard that before. It was a weird statement. I was kind.
Who said that?
I've heard of words. I don't know. I better not tell you. I've been called a lot of things, but it's sort of a different kind of a word. It's like an old-fashioned word, isn't it?
So that was the tariff update from yesterday. Essentially, Trump said that the tariffs will be relatively kind, and that he's never been called kind before. So he was happy that someone ended up calling him kind. That's the only update I have right here. April 2nd is tomorrow, so we will find out soon enough how this is playing out. I'm sure we'll get some new updates throughout the day. The other update here is that Rose Garden is where it's going to be talked about. So the Liberation Day for tariffs will be discussed in the Rose Garden. This is a question I had yesterday of just like, hey, where is this going to happen? Is this going to be in the Oval Office? Is this going to be in the press briefing room? They are going to the beautiful scenery of the Rose Garden to announce America's liberation within all these tariffs. The only other update here is I was reading an article this morning about, are there going to be any exemptions? Because I think that's the biggest question, right? Everyone's trying to figure out, hey, are there exemptions? Is there going to be a delay on Mexico and Canada? Are semis, pharmaceuticals, et cetera, going to be kind of excluded for a bit? And the answer from the articles I was reading this morning is no. And that's probably because those reporters don't, know as much as we know about what's happening with tariffs. But the kind of core thing they're hearing from the White House right now is that there's no exemptions. It will be fully universal across the board and reciprocal against the companies or the countries that are tariffing us at the same exact rate that they're tariffing us. And that is a little at odds with what Trump said about the tariffs are going to be relatively kind, because when he says that, maybe I'm thinking, okay, they're not going to be as bad as they are. But if they're exactly reciprocal, then they're going to be aggressive, right? So, I mean, I'm really curious to see how this is going to end up playing out. Tomorrow we will know. I'll be live streaming it whatever time it is. I don't know what time it is. I think it's going to be during the middle of the day. I don't think it's going to be like at 5 p.m. or 6. I think it'll probably be like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. I'm sure Lutnick will be there. Basent will be there. Trump might bring on some special guests or whatever to help back him up on this thing. But 3 p.m. Okay, cool. So we'll start the market close early. That means it'll actually start at like 3:30, most likely. But yeah, we will see what ends up happening, and I'll be covering it tomorrow, and hopefully it's not the worst thing in the world. Peter, thank you for the super chat. Why does this not feel liberating? Well, it's definitely going to hurt a little bit of the markets if this actually goes into play. Again, here's the sort of like core argument around how this ends up playing out. By the way, the 10-year showing a little bit of momentum right now, 4.169 to the downside, which is good. I think there's a few scenarios, and the most realistic scenario, in my opinion, is that there will be universal tariffs. Within a few weeks, there will be some deals with some of our major allies to navigate those tariffs, and it will result in those countries lowering their tariffs. We will lower our tariffs, and we won't end up in some massive trade war, if not getting rid of the tariffs reciprocally on both sides. I think that's kind of the most likely scenario. That, I think, leads volatility in the market to potentially liberate you from your net worth, because we are going to see stock prices probably dip on that. And then the market's going to wake up and be like, oh, wait, it's not that big of a deal. Trump's going to make some deals and we're going to move forward. I think that's one scenario. The other scenario is that he doesn't really announce the extent of the tariffs that he's been saying he's going to announce, or that officials have been saying he's going to announce tomorrow. And it's a very light version of what he's been talking about. And the market priced in something that was even worse than this. This is kind of the Tom Lee thesis, where the market's like, all right, cool, it's not that big of a deal, V-shape, boom. And then you have a recovery. And in the words of Tom Lee, it might be led by Tesla, right? So that's another scenario on how this plays out. The third scenario, which is the worst scenario, and I hope this doesn't happen at all, but it is a possibility. We institute tariffs. The other countries decide to engage in a full-on trade war because they want to not capitulate about tariffs. Inflation rises because of tariffs, because tariffs will be inflationary to an extent, no matter how much revenue we collect in tariffs, like they're going to create some inflation. Jay Powell doesn't cut rates because inflation's going up, and he doesn't want to be the guy that cut rates while inflation was going up. Growth then slows down, but then Jay Powell is too slow to cut rates before growth really slows down. So we're going to get a couple negative GDP quarters. Jay Powell might cut rates by 25 bips, but he also might be like, you know what? We need to really see that the labor market is uniquely in a bad situation for us to cut rates. He probably doesn't cut rates until the end of the year. By then, growth has meaningfully slowed down. Inflation has either been stable or slightly up, and we are basically in stagflation at this point. And the rate cuts would kind of be the cure to that to an extent. Or growth would have to go down so dramatically that inflation comes down, because when growth comes down, inflation comes down, but growth would have to really come down, which means earnings would probably come down. So even though we get inflation down, we end up getting what so many people predicted in 2023 and 2024, which is a recession to get inflation to come down. Which, remember, the reason Jay Powell got a lot of credit last year is because we didn't have a recession even in 2023, and inflation got all the way down to 2.4 on the headline CPI. But if we end up having to have that sort of core thing that economists have been saying for the past 2 years, which is you need a massive recession to get inflation to come down like we did decades ago, and that ends up happening, then that's just something we're going to have to deal with. SJ says the third scenario is the one that's going to happen. The other countries will fight back. Well, here's the thing about the other countries. I wonder if they are in the economic position to fight back. Like, are they really going to be stubborn enough? Because look, I do agree with Trump on the idea that we should not be paying the ridiculous tariffs we're paying to a lot of these other countries. Like, there's just no reason for that. And I do agree with him philosophically that it's just not fair. And at some point, something has to be done about this. The question is to what extent and how serious is he going to be to get something done about this? Because I don't think he's ideological about this. I think if he gets a deal done, he's going to get a deal. But if those countries are just going to double down on how aggressive they are with their tariffs, like that's not that yeah, the third scenario is very possible if that plays out. But again, I think the administration has something up their sleeve. They have some plans. I'm hoping they have some plans. And as a result, that should lead to not the worst scenario playing out. But a scenario where stocks go flat for the next couple of months as this whole thing is being navigated, yeah, I mean, and 2025 turns into an accumulation year versus a growth year, yeah, it might just end up happening. As long as we avoid the recession, quite frankly, I don't care, because that ruins everything. That ruins the roaring 20s. Like it's, and not just a technical recession, like a real, we could have a technical recession, like a real recession. Yeah, like that's just not going to be fun for anybody. So if we can avoid that and somehow we avoid that, then I think it's important. I also think, Chris's argument about the Democrats in the midterms, like if we do have a legit recession, I mean, yeah, Trump's not going to be able to fulfill any of his second half agenda because he's just not going to have the House. Maybe doesn't have the Senate. So if we end up, egg prices come down, but like no one has a job to buy those eggs, like Democrats are going to have a hell of a narrative going into the midterms. And I think that's going to be important as well to navigate. Style says, why would past presidents let other countries put tariffs on us, but we didn't have any on them? That's a good question. I think Trump's been asking this question for a long time as well. And I guess it was in the name of free trade. Obviously, the Trump administration is embracing a paradigm that is not congruent with the past, but it's a good question. Other presidents have let this happen. We've had selective tariffs against different countries, but we have realistically not wanted to ruin our relationships across the world. But again, this is what the Trump administration's paradigm is. They don't care about America being friendly with the UK or with Japan. Like they just want reciprocity and fairness. And as a result, we're going to go to whatever extent we need to go to get there. So, I mean, April 2nd really will be, it's either going to be liberation from all these tariffs, it's going to be liberation from our money, or it's going to be a day that ushers us into a new economic understanding of how we engage in trade. But tomorrow we're going to find out how this plays out, and I'll be live to cover it. And I'm just hoping it's not that bad. Yeah, we need to get unburdened by what has been. That is correct. We need to get unburdened by what has been. Okay, let's talk about Tessie. So we got a bunch of updates on Tesla. First of all, Europe sales. Tesla sales in France dropped nearly 37% in March, marking the third straight monthly decline and the weakest Q1 in the country since 2021. Sales were also down 61% in Sweden. So you had some nastiness in terms of the Tesla sales numbers that came out last night in France and Sweden. And obviously that kind of goes into this narrative around the brand being hurt by Elon. We also had Denmark, where sales fell 65.56% in March from the same month a year ago to 593 vehicles. Registration data from Mobility Denmark showed on Tuesday. So that's the bad news. Oh, we just got an update on tariffs. Here we go. White House considering a roughly 20% tariff on most imports, from the Washington Post. Okay. 20% on most. Well, that actually mathematically makes sense, because the way to get that Peter Navarro $600 billion revenue tax number, the math comes out to 20% on everything. So this is not necessarily new, but no, the White House never officially gave the number. I don't know how the Washington Post got this number, but if they are correct about it, the number is consistent with what we heard over the weekend in terms of these revenue estimates. It would be 20% on everything. So there you go. That's what we got. Oh boy, we will see what happens tomorrow. It'll be a big one. We will see what happens tomorrow. All right. So in the context of Tesla, Denmark, Sweden, and France sucked. Also, here's another one. Spain sucked. Like, people are not happy with Elon across the world. Tesla registrations fell 11.8% in the first quarter, while electric cars as a whole rose 46.7%. So Tesla, as a percentage of the overall market share of these European countries' EV sales, are just not the best. However, even though Spain, Denmark, France, and Sweden sucked, The reason the stock is up is because China was really good. So in China, from March 2025, you had around about 50,000 Tesla China insured units, which was the best month of the year. Yeah, by far the best month of the year for March. So year to date in China, you're at 137,000 vehicles that have been registered. And this was the best month of the first 3 months of Q1. That's why the stock was actually up last night. For those that are wondering why was the stock pumping last night, the reason the stock was pumping last night was because of this China number, Newsmax, up 52% in the pre-market. My goodness. It was because of this number that came out last night. That's why Tesla was up $5. Right now it's at 262.96, down a little bit because of the European numbers that came out this morning. But last night when the China numbers came out, it was very, very exciting for investors. And that's why we were pumping last night. Newsmax, dude. Goodness gracious. Look, I'm not chasing this. I hope no one gets FOMO here. I can't stop anyone if they do get FOMO. But yeah, this thing is now up basically 900%. And it is what it is. It's like there's a small float. This is going to get squeezed more and more. But I don't know. I think eventually it comes down. We'll see what ends up happening there. So yeah, that's it in the context of Tesla. Sales numbers in China are good. Sales numbers everywhere else are bad, and that's why Tesla stock is slightly up right now. I am really concerned about the Q1 numbers and I'm also confused. Part of me thinks that their last Model Y push at the end of the year or the end of the month, like given I experienced the whole process and I talked to the guys at the Tesla dealership, they were, yeah, dude, we're completely sold out. It seems like they hit their numbers to an extent at the end of the month. The question is, are their numbers at all comparable to the 385,000 that they put up last year? And estimates are from 360 to 400. I'm guessing 375 to 385 just because of that last week Model Y push. But when you look at these European sales, like Spain down 12%, even though electric vehicles are up 47% in the country, you start wondering, across the world, how bad really is it? And definitely in Europe, it doesn't seem like it's the best. So I think that's the extent of the data that April 2nd, tomorrow. Not only do we find out about tariffs, we find out about Tessie. So I think we get that number like 9:15 tomorrow. So that'll be a big one. That'll be a big one to see as well. You think it'll be around 300, dude? If it's 300, the lowest estimate I've seen is 360. I mean, put in the chat what you think your estimate is, but if it's below 360, I think that would be an issue. That would be the refresh has not been shipped abroad. That is also fair. You see a lot of these websites saying, "Oh, the new Model Y refresh is sold out," but that's realistically the inventory is sold out, not the actual cars that have been delivered. It's like, yeah, they've got a ton of orders for them, but it's not like they actually deliver them, which is not going to count towards any meaningful delivery numbers, at least in Q1. Yeah, dude, if we're below 300. 325, 370. Okay, a lot of you guys are in the middle of 360 to 370. That's what I'm thinking as well. I think 375 to 385. Grok said 390. 420. I don't think it's going to be above 400. If it is, I think the market would be so happy, bro. If it's anywhere close to 400, I think the market would, even with the stock trading where it is, I think it would be so excited for that. Yeah, I don't think it'll be below 350. 350 would be a bit aggressive. Okay, so speaking of Grok, since someone mentioned Grok, let's talk about the big news last night, and then we'll get deeper into. Actually, no, let's do this. Let's get an update on tariffs first, and then we'll talk about Openai, because Openai had a major funding round yesterday. That was pretty important. So let's continue on with some tariffs, and then we'll get into Openai.
Reciprocal tariffs tomorrow, but what are American businesses telling him now about whether they support or approve of the measures? Senior economics reporter Steve Leisman and a team of CNBC producers took an in-depth look. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Andrew. Yeah, from pipe makers to peach producers, toy importers to commercial shrimpers, the White House received over 750 comments on reciprocal tariffs, and our team poured over about half of them. What we found, some businesses believing an unfair trading system puts their livelihoods at constant risk. Others warning new tariffs would cost jobs and hike consumer prices. Not scientific, but our calculations are that about...
You guys heard that, right? Commercial strippers? What? Okay, I guess we're tariffing commercial strippers. That is, unless there's a different definition of stripper, but all right, there you go. The strippers are affected by this as well.
52% of the sample, which is about 400 comments, disapprove of the tariffs. 48% approve. Opposing, retailers and importers. Supporting, manufacturers, agriculture, and commercial fishing. Divided, interestingly, were exporters, some of whom face trade barriers getting into other countries. Others fear retaliation. The Georgia Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association, just one of the lobby groups that wrote in, to a great extent, Mexican fruit and vegetable producers have been able to achieve extraordinary growth in recent years because of unfair Mexican subsidies. Meanwhile, the Smith family companies, a furniture maker in Alabama, writing in, a further increase in furniture-grade plywood coming from Brazil will have a negative impact on an industry that is struggling. So here are the reasons why people favored tariffs. They talked about unfair tariffs on U.S. exports, cheap labor in other countries. Some mentioned national security concerns. Others said government subsidies and or dumping by other industries. Who opposed the tariffs? A lack of U.S. labor or a higher cost of that labor, lack of capacity to manufacture in the United States, an increase of input prices, and a lot of concern about retaliations. What's clear? We have an enormously complicated trading system with many companies feeling their businesses have much to lose from these tariffs. Others saying tariffs are the only way for them to stay in business. Andrew, I read about 50 of these, and they tell quite a story.
They do tell quite a story. Do you have a take, by the way, on this question mark that we've had all morning, which is once the tariffs are put in place or announced, at least historically, how long have the debates about them and the reciprocal debate taken place before they get either locked in? I mean, they may get locked in, but does the reciprocal tariffs then force the hand for everything to change all over again and then change the sort of uncertainty aspect to whether then businesses make investments because they're all playing chicken with each other?
Yeah, I don't have a definitive take for sure. I guess that's why you've been debating it all morning. I mean, I think that the problem has always been both the process and the policy, right? So the process is one that has itself generated uncertainty as to what the policy will be. Then the policy can come along, and then you have to debate it. What I read in these things, by the way, hats off to the Louisiana Shrimp Association. They got about 100 people to write in. One of the most what do you want to call it? Just basically those who wrote in more than anybody else. But in any event, what you find, Andrew, is that there's a lot of people who are figured out a way to do business in the current system. You blow it up, everybody has to figure out how to do business all over again. There are some products that you can only get. I wish I could read for you Idaho Timber that wrote in about spruce pine fir that has to come from Canada. It's the only place they particularly get that kind of wood. So it really is an enormously complicated system. We've somehow arrived at a detente between all the countries, and now it's all going to be thrown up in the air. I think the other question, Andrew, is what's the greater macro good here? And most economists think it's with lower tariffs.
Okay, he might have said commercial shippers, and we heard strippers because all of us are ridiculous. But look, what's really interesting in that survey right there is that you have very niche businesses that need a specific type of wood, in that example from Canada. And so they're writing in their survey about how the tariffs would affect them. But then you also have 52% of these small businesses saying, yeah, we think these tariffs are unfair, and they've been unfair for the past 20 years. So it is interesting. I don't know if Trump's necessarily losing all of the support from the business community, especially the small business community that, quite frankly, the tariffs have hit into their margins over the past couple of decades, and they're probably annoyed about it. So at some point, they're probably happy that someone's sticking up for them and trying to fight back with these tariffs. But you've also got a lot of these businesses saying, well, I need to stay in business. And if you tariff them 20% and they tariff us back again 30%, and then we tariff 30%, that's only going to hurt my cost of goods. And so, again, this is very nuanced, very complex. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, but I do think over the coming weeks, we're going to get some more data in the context of exactly how the administration is planning to navigate this, what exceptions they're willing to give. There is one rumor that came out yesterday that Mexico and Canada will get another month So it'll be May 2nd for Mexico and Canada, and then China and the rest of the world, including the EU, will get reciprocal tariffs tomorrow. I mean, I guess we're going to find out how this plays out, but this is definitely going to be one of the most consequential things in Trump 1.0 or 2.0. I know he had tariffs in 1.0, but those were just against China, and they were nothing compared to 20% universal tariffs across all of our trading partners. So it'll be one of those things that really does determine the trajectory of not only free trade, but obviously where the stock market goes as well. And we'll find out tomorrow. We will find out tomorrow. Okay, OpenAI, let's talk about them. So this was a big thing that came out yesterday. Sam Altman, we were talking about OpenAI yesterday on the market open, and by the market close, Altman puts out this tweet. We added 1 million users in the last hour. Now, how did they add 1 million users in the last hour? It is so ironic that the most viral AI app of our lifetimes right now, ChatGPT, which is adding 1 million users an hour. I don't think most of the other AI products are at that scale yet. And again, it's just because people associate AI with ChatGPT, and it's kind of become synonymous with those two brands together. And they also have first mover advantage. They were just there before everybody else. But the photo trend I was talking about yesterday, Ghibli, which I got to finally play with yesterday, and I'm on the free version of ChatGPT, and I still got to the access to it, so I could understand how these millions of people are just completely destroying their GPUs by putting up these pictures. This photo trend is awesome. It's super cool. You can take any photo and just say, hey, ChatGPT, can you turn this into this style? And as a result, it is meaningfully affect. Look at it. It got the manicure on my nails too. Like, it's perfect. It as a result, I think it meaningfully is affecting the GPT user numbers. And to me, this is really bullish Nvidia. Why is this bullish Nvidia? Because as I said yesterday, if an animated photo trend is what's creating the virality around getting an AI app to get 1 million people in an hour to sign up to it, which makes sense because a lot of teenagers, like they use Snapchat and stuff, and they're one of the biggest demographics that would find value in this just from the photo perspective. But then if it could help them do their homework or something like that, like the retention on these users, I would be very interested to see how it plays out, because if that's strong retention when people realize they can ask this ChatGPT thing a bunch of questions, we're going to need some more GPUs, bro. We're going to need a lot of more GPUs. I mean, the fact that they added 1 million users in an hour yesterday reminded me how early we are. And I should know this, but I constantly forget that most people don't know what AI is. I barely know what AI is. Most people don't know what ChatGPT is. Most people have never played with an LLM. And so the world is vast for this opportunity to become absolutely massive. And then on top of that, not only did you just have 1 million users in an hour, but OpenAI secured a $40 billion round of funding at a $300 billion market cap. Look, do they deserve to be worth $300 billion? And I mean, let's do a poll in the chat. That's a good question. Would you guys buy OpenAI at a $300 billion market cap? I want to say no, because I do believe the tech is commoditized. Would you buy OpenAI at $300 billion? But as I've been saying for the past couple of weeks now, there might be something that OpenAI is working on that we don't know about, that the investors like SoftBank do know about. I mean, they put 30 freaking billion into the company on this funding round. So there might be something that Masa-san is looking at that we're not looking at, that thinks that, that gives them a competitive advantage when it comes to OpenAI. Here's the one real competitive advantage I think they have. Even if they are a commoditized model, if they're going to win the consumer application when it comes to AI, because quite frankly, no one's heard of Grok. No one's heard of Gemini. Like, the average person has no idea. If you have to be on Twitter to know about Grok, and you have to really be into tech to even know that Google has something called Gemini, or Google has to really stuff it in your face on the homepage. So people, like, it's ChatGPT, right? That's what people associate with AI. If they can meaningfully maintain their competitive advantage across all the other LLMs in the context of consumer, I still think that's a kind of crappy business, just that subscription, or maybe they do some ads. I don't think that really scales them to be a multi-trillion-dollar company. But if they release AGI before XAI and Gemini, and they come up with artificial general intelligence, and they have a couple billion users, then I think we're talking a different ballgame. And so I'd probably be hesitant to invest at a $300 billion market cap, but I can understand why people would want to, just given the sheer level of growth. ChatGPT right here is now one of the most visited websites on the planet at 3.9 billion visits in February. It's number 10th in the world, number 16th in the United States. I mean, if that just keeps growing, then I think we're going to see some more momentum. The one takeaway from this, though, for everybody is this is super bullish Nvidia. super bullish Nvidia. I mean, when Sam Altman says our GPUs are getting fried, we barely have the GPUs to keep up with this demand. He had to limit the amount of photos you could create to like 5 a day because of how much lack of infrastructure they have to support all of the compute. And then all of these users, again, they join ChatGPT, they do this photo trend, and then they realize it could help them with their math homework. That's even more computational infrastructure you need, more queries, more compute. To me, that just screams more NVIDIA. And if the retention on GPT is good, what happens when those people try out Grok and they try out Gemini and they try out Perplexity and all these products that at the end of the day rely on NVIDIA? So to me, like, I don't know. I just feel like NVIDIA is a screaming buy. I really do. And some of the qualitative analysis that we're getting in the real world to kind of validate the level of demand that people have when it comes to these AI products is further reinforcing that. And I think a year from now, we're going to be looking at NVIDIA trading at 23 times earnings if we avoided a recession and be like, that was stupid. But the question is going to be when this ends up playing out over the coming months. Google search is still by far the dominant search platform, not even close. Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree with that at all. I think Google's incredibly cheap, and Google's cheaper than NVIDIA right here as well. But if GPT gets anywhere near the 80 billion visits that Google gets a month, GPT is again at about 4 billion. I mean, imagine they get to like 15, 20 billion in the next 2 years. That's a fourth of Google's traffic on GPT. Like that would be like, I mean, I don't care how much you're worth. There's got to be a way to monetize that somehow. And so I guess we're going to see how OpenAI capitalizes on this opportunity. It's a Snapchat filter. So, okay, I will defend it. It's better than a Snapchat filter. You definitely need AI to make it like come out as crispy as it's coming out. And for anyone who hasn't tried out the thing on GPT, I would try it out. Like it really is a pristine picture. But B, even if it is like a stupid little Snapchat thing, that is how a lot of stuff goes viral, right? Like the most basic stuff that get like Instagram, Flickr, all these companies in 2010 went viral. Instagram quite literally made its name off of the fact that it was a photo app with filters and everyone wanted like black and white and all these random filters. It would be so ironic if GPT gets the next 100 million users because of photo filters, but it could work. And if it does work, that could be very, very bullish for them. The name of it is Ghibli. I'm probably saying it wrong, but Ghibli. So just put a picture into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you put this in Ghibli or Ghibli, whatever it is? And yeah, it'll turn it into it. And it's just really cool. When I played with it last night, I was like, oh, I get why people are playing with this. Like it just makes every photo look even that much more cooler. Apparently there's like a movie in Ghibli made or something. I didn't know. You guys were telling me that last night. I didn't know about that at all. Ghibli. There's like some Japanese animated studio movie about this. I have no idea, but oh, it's a studio. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's why people have been saying Studio Ghibli. Okay, cool. Well, whatever it is. Why are you guys going off on me, bro? You expected me to know that? You expected me to know this? Out of all people, I am very honored. That you got this is April Fool's joke, right? You expected me to know there's some studio called Ghibli in Japan making this type of art. Like, you just like, there's no way. Did you have a life before you went? Did you have a life before you started live streaming? Yeah, I had a life. I just didn't know about Studio Ghibli. Wow, a lot of you guys knew about this thing. All right, well, I didn't know about this. I don't know. It is a robot confirmed. Studio. Yeah, Ghibli is super famous, dude. I found out about it because of GPT. All right. So, and I think a lot of people also found out about it because of this as well. There's some controversy between the artist because I don't know if OpenAI is compensating or they're stealing the style and now everyone's using the style, but they're not giving credit to the artist. There's also some concerns that it's ruining the environment because everyone's making these stupid photos, but the GPU energy demand is this, and that. I don't have an opinion on all that stuff. I mean, I just care about what does it mean for the market valuation of OpenAI and how does that impact NVIDIA? That's the extent of my analysis on that. But there have been some concerns about the artist and the environment and all that stuff. Okay, people could be concerned about that. Is it going to make NVIDIA go up or not? Because that's what I care about. Everything else is like, all right, it's a cool story, but I really do care about my investment here. Manuel says it's an anime studio. You can probably make the same thing from studios with different styles. Well, I did not know that. The artist said AI is an insult to life itself. Okay, come on, bro. Like all these artists that are so anti-AI, like I've like listened to some of them talk about this stuff, and I'm like, guys, this is the future. Like this is like you like I've also seen some artists like meaningfully embrace it, and I've seen some artists get like so upset about it. It's like, dude, come on, this is the future. This is like taxi drivers complaining about Uber. Like you're gonna get left behind unless you embrace what's going on. And like I mean, dude, if you're an Uber driver right now and you're seeing what's happening with Waymo and robo taxis, etc., I mean, I think one of the smartest things is to figure out how can you own a fleet of these cars, because the drivers, and I don't think the drivers are going extinct anytime soon. I mean, like it's going to be a while before like people stop needing a driver, but eventually, I mean, given I just drove a Waymo, I drive FSD every day. This is the future, bro. It's happening. Like my dad at 63 is using FSD now, and he's just like, he's amazed by it. And it's like, it's one of those things where if the older generation, you know, the one person in our house that hasn't embraced FSD or the Tesla, it's my sister. It's my freaking sister, bro. She is so paranoid about FSD. She's like me from 4 years ago where I was like, oh, I'll never get in a car with self-driving. Like she cannot handle it. Newsmax, by the way, up 50%. We got 2 minutes till the market opens. She won't even drive the Tesla. Like she won't even drive it. And I'm like, yo, do you hate Elon or something? Like, what's going on here? Like, what exactly is the issue? Are you actually this paranoid about the Tesla, or like you hate Elon? And then she jokes that she hates Elon. And I'm like, just like, or do you actually hate Elon, or like what's going on here? But she doesn't hate Elon. She's not comfortable with the Tesla, and she's definitely not comfortable self-driving. And she's been in the car with me many times when I did self-driving, but she's still like, well, first of all, she doesn't think I'm a good driver. She thinks I drive like crazy. And I don't think I drive like crazy. I'm just saying when I'm with her in the car and it takes us 15 minutes to get somewhere, I could get us there in 5. I feel like I have the capabilities to get us there way faster than she takes. And you know, maybe I've shown her those capabilities and she's gotten a little scared of how I drive, but it is what it is. Okay. FSD, quite frankly, is a bit more safer than I am because it actually follows speed limits and stops at stop signs and stuff like that. So I feel like it would be prudent on her to embrace it, but she has just not embraced it at all. Did you tell her you were not driving? Yes, she was in the car with me while we were going to like a restaurant or something in FSD, and she was paranoid for like the whole like 10 minutes. She like couldn't believe it. I'm like, dude, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. But eventually I think she'll catch on, just like my dad's catching on. The whole world will catch on, and we will have a self-driving revolution. The question is just going to be who are going to be the big winners when that ends up happening. 9:30 a.m. Happy April Fools. Thank you everybody for being here. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. S&P 500 is down about 0.5%. S&P 500 down about 0.45%. SoFi down about 0.7%. Google down about 0.34%. Tessie's up. Tessie is up. Again, European numbers from Denmark, Sweden, and France in the gutter today, down about 30% across the board. China had their best month all year. So I think those China registration numbers are keeping the stock afloat right now, but the European numbers were not that good this morning. Nvda basically flat on the day, 108.32. Nvda opens up flat, but it is up from that 103 level that we were at yesterday. Marathon is down about 0.14%. Target's up 0.29%. Google down another 0.5%. Amazon 187. That's down 1.27%. Microsoft's is down 0.5%. Hoodie 41.55. Nice rebound from 38.81 yesterday. Let's see if it can hold on to this 41 level, but that is down about 0.3% to start off the day. Palantir also great rebound yesterday from 78 to 84. It's down a little bit right now. We do have a new Karp video that we'll watch in a second. He was at a AIG investor conference. So we'll listen to him in a bit. But Palantir right here, just turning green on the day. Apple is down about 1.3%. PayPal's down 0.72%. Bitcoin 83.5%. Again, Bitcoin goes green while the NASDAQ is red. Second day in a row, which this has happened. The NASDAQ right here down 0.38%. Usually this kind of signals a bit of a reversal that will happen in the broader equity markets when Bitcoin is this green. But let's see around 11 a.m. if that happens today. Tesla right here, 266. That's up 2.5%. Nvidia now up about 0.35%. Newsmax is up 70% on the day. For those that don't know this stock, it is a IPO that happened yesterday. I'm sorry I didn't tell you guys about it. I quite literally found out after the market opened. It IPO'd at $10. It is a conservative, it's like a smaller version of Fox News, a conservative radio cable TV company. They're now worth $17 billion I think they've done $1 billion in revenue, and I don't know how much in profit. And the stock's up 800% since IPO. Or sorry, 1,000% since IPO, from $10 to 132, 1,300%, I should say, a little bit higher than 1,000%. Look, I wouldn't chase this thing, but there's no puts available to buy on this, so I don't know what has led this to be squeezed the way it is. Probably has to do with something around people just wanting to play it as a MAGA trade. That's my best guess, but Newsmax up 63% currently right now. Nubank is up 1.4%. HIMS is up 0.15%. HIMS at 29.64, just under $30. TLT is up a little bit. That's because the 10-year is back below 4.2, which is good. You can't, I mean, look, I mean, if you wanted to take a chance shorting it, you can. I would rather buy puts because at least there's a limited loss on your puts, which is the premium you pay. If you short it, there's an unlimited loss. The thing is, I don't know enough about Newsmax to say it's a comfortable short, because like obviously it looks like a great short, but like what if there really is a GameStop cult of apes that are pumping this thing up and they're going to stick it to the liberal media by making this conservative news network go to $100 billion? I mean, like, I don't know how crazy this could get. SoFi right here, green on the day, up 0.64%. So, I mean, if you do short it, I would be a little careful because there just might be more dynamics here that are at play. But I would buy puts on it. It's just the puts are not available at least yet. S&P 500 right here, 557.44. That's down about 0.35%. VG, that's up about 1%. Tempest AI down about 0.46. Kathy Wood did buy more Hood yesterday. She bought about 30,000 shares last week on Friday. She bought 250,000 shares. Hood right here down about 0.38%. She also bought more CoreWeave yesterday. That IPO is green on the day, 1.1%. That is green. That is green. Only 6% of the shares were released. It's going to get diluted. That's probably the best bear case as well, outside of the fact that it's probably overvalued. But they didn't release the initial amount of, or the full amount of the initial shares they went public with. So yeah, that is a good point. As they issue more shares, which they said they were going to do in the S1, then we could see more dilution for Newsmax. Celsius, are we green on Celsius? We are green, baby. Celsius, the stock of the year. 4 months into the year, I'm calling it. Celsius is the stock of the year. It is incredible. It is incredible in the context of Celsius. This is the GOAT, dude. It's the GOAT. Okay, Sid, you're saying, how do you short Newsmax? Someone explain. I would not short any stock if you're asking how to short the stock. I would just stay away. I've never shorted a stock before. Maybe one day I will, but in general, there's like unlimited losses you can have if you don't know what you're doing. With puts, like if you buy a put for $100, you might lose your premium if the thing goes to 150 by expiration, right? So like it's a much more safer way of being bearish. But if you don't know how to short a company, I wouldn't short a company. But it's a lot more of a complicated process, and you need to kind of know what you're doing here. Again, look, Newsmax, I do think it's a good short, but I also think it could be a little memey. And if April 2nd we do get a V-shaped recovery and you've got risk on momentum with Newsmax, who knows? Who knows where this thing can go? S&P 500 getting hit a little bit harder, down about 0.45%. I don't think we have any crazy macro data today. Oh, Rocket Lab's down because they bought a company. Rocket Lab is down because they bought a company. The company's name, it's a space company. I don't know how much they paid for it. The company is called, what is the company called? I just saw it this morning. Starts with an A, Astra Space or something like that, I think is what they bought. So I think that, I mean, obviously, you know, when the company is spending money on an acquisition, their stock tends to go down, but that is the reason why it's down right now. Damn, I can't find the name of this company. What is the name of this company? It's not Archer. They didn't buy Archer, no. That's so weird. I can't find that. I'll find it in a second. But yeah, they acquired a company today, from what I saw, and that's probably the reason they're down 3%. That's fake news. No, I think it's real. It's Astra Space. I'm pretty sure it's Astra Space. I don't think it's fake. I'll confirm in a second. But yeah, I believe that is why they're down right now. Rocket Lab right here, down about 3.64%. They were up at 20. I'll try to confirm. Yeah, this one. Rocket Lab announces the acquisition of Astra Space. There you go. There you go. That's not April Fool's. Wait, that was April. Oh my God. There's no way. That was April Fool's? You know, it makes sense because the account that I found it on deleted the tweet. Oh shit, no, they didn't delete the tweet. I'm just an idiot. Dude, I was using this account for the source, bro. Come on. This guy's supposed to know about Rocket Lab, right? Dave G Investing. Doesn't he do Rocket Lab Weekly? Oh my god, dude. I thought he freaking I should have looked at the comments, bro. Goodness gracious. Well, that's my third April Fool's of the day. You guys got me in the morning with the mic muted as well. Never mind. I don't know why Rocket Lab's down 3%, because apparently it's not freaking Astra Space. Dude, April 1st is dangerous in finance, bro. That now I'm happy Trump robbing it down 1.7%. I'm happy Trump didn't do the whole tariff stuff on April 1st. Like no one would have took it seriously. So at least we'll see what happens tomorrow on April 2nd. All right, market's actually going down. S&P's down 0.5. Nvidia goes red, down another 1.3%. Google's about to go red. SoFi continues to go red, down 1.2%. The S&P 500 down about 0.48%. And so we are starting to get a little bit of red. In terms of SoFi, I know you guys are saying to look at Noto's tweet yesterday. Noto did put out a very long tweet. I'm not going to go into it today. I made my comments on Robinhood Weekly pretty clear. If you guys want to watch that, we spent like a good 15 minutes discussing this. But essentially, the guy wrote out this essay about how he takes responsibility for everything and that they're going to keep executing, yada yada yada. I mean, look, my take was that this was unnecessary. Like, I don't think a CEO needs to spend meaningful time out of their day writing to some anonymous account how much they're working hard. I think they should just work hard. So to me, like, if you're going to spend that much time talking, writing up these essays, maybe do a podcast with Tanner, maybe like do a podcast with DDI, maybe actually get your story out into the world versus relying on a 5-minute segment with Jim Cramer. So, with SoFi, it's a question of execution and communication. I don't think they have it yet. I still am bullish on the stock, but I think they need to be better at communication. And hopefully by the end of the year, they will be, but we'll see how it ends up playing out. Again, I don't think this is a short. By the way, Newsmax just got halted. I don't think this is short SoFi, sell SoFi. I think it's stupid trading at $11. I don't understand what the hell is going on with Noto, dude. Like, that's a lot of time he spent writing this ChatGPT essay about how hard they work when he could have just done a 30-minute interview and talked about it with one of the biggest retail supporters that's been following the company for a long time. So my issue with SoFi right now is they don't know how to communicate to the public. They don't have an investor day. They don't have any buzz or excitement. But I think the stock's cheap. So hopefully we see that $20 price target by the end of the year. Karp's on Bloomberg in 20 minutes. Oh, great. Awesome. We got Karp on Bloomberg today. Cool. Okay, so let me play the Karp video that just came out with, he was at the AIG conference right here. It's a 2-minute clip. I didn't know we have Karp on Bloomberg, but we'll see Karp on Bloomberg in 20 minutes. All right, here's Karp at the AIG investor event. AIG is using Palantir's software, so that's why he was probably invited to the event. Wait, was that an April Fool's joke? Oh my freaking goodness. I was wondering, bro. I feel like I would have known out of all people if Karp had a Bloomberg interview today. Like, I feel like out of everyone, I would have known. Because I kind of know about this stuff. And dude, that's like a 5th one today. I told you guys in the morning I would get hit with a bunch. I told you guys. And then in the first 30 seconds, you guys got me with the mic being unmuted. And now I got the Rocket Lab and Palantir one, dude. I was looking forward to Karp, dude. All right, well, at least we have a clip from Karp right here. You guys are being cruel now. You're just being mean at this point.
Can AI outperform a human in what they do in the following way? Can AI make 1 human 5 humans? So that's basically, if you want to, and here the human is doing something very technical. So, we talk about underwriting, whatever the use case is, you have an expert who's been trained in understanding not just data, but proxy data. It's very hard to teach people proxy. Like, you guys are all watching this, and you have the people you're very good at what you do. So you're not just looking at what I say, you're looking at inferences for what it means based on years of experience, right? So it's like, that's how you know if what I'm saying is actually going to change your model of their business, right? So and so 5 people say the same thing. 1 is convincing, 1's not. And that's how you make all your money. You can tell the difference. You can hear what people, so that's de facto what a technical human is doing. Can the large language model combined with what we call our ontology make one human 10x more valuable, meaning they have 5x more output at half the time. Okay, so that is actually a crazy hard thing to do because you're going to have to figure out where do you deploy the large language model across the decision tree. It's not one decision, just like I'm making many statements and you're bracketing. That makes sense. That turns the dial. That changes something. That's different than what I heard. That is what I've heard before, but because of that, it's commodified. I don't believe it, right? And those are assessments you're making. Underwriters are doing exactly the same thing. So it is a huge milestone if you can actually come in and change the unit economics dramatically. And dramatically is important because there's a huge institutional cost to this. So the question you're going to ask yourself is, okay, or many of you are going to say, I assume they're, I believe them. He's a little crazy, whatever. But you're going to de facto, the next question is this a commodified way of doing things, right? And what I would tell you is it would be if you actually could do it.
So this, and I'm not falling for all your tweets in the chat. I'm not falling for if Trump is live, Figure is IPOing, Palantir just named Amit the COO. I'm not falling for it. All right. You guys got me enough for the day. But what Karp's talking about right here is the commoditization of the LLM that does not become commodified in terms of the use cases if you implement it in the context of the ontology. Here's what AIG put out yesterday. Take a look at this. Palantir is not only on the AI applications and services, not only on the AI model orchestration and governance, not only on the data ontology, data pipelines and management, but also on the platform ops and enablement. Palantir is one of those logos that is everywhere across this Investor Day presentation because essentially AIG is saying, hey, we have basically allowed Palantir to become a true operating system for our business. AIG is one of the biggest insurance companies, and Shyam Sankar a couple of months talked about the sort of agentic workflows that they came up with to help AIG with their underwriting. And it seems like that is working in a pretty meaningful way, which is why Karp is on stage with the AIG CEO. So although Karp will not be on Bloomberg in 20 minutes, like you guys said, Newsmax still halted at 1:35. I do think we're going to see a pretty strong Q1 because we are just going to see a lot more commercial momentum by customers that are fully embracing this AI revolution. Tesla right here up 2.26%. The S&P 500 recovering a little bit, but still down for the day. SoFi is trying to go up about 1%. The Qs are up 0.23%. Google's up 0.61%. MicroStrategy's green. Amazon 190. There you go, from 187 to 190. Palantir as well, 84.45. Microsoft 375. That's up from 368. So that's green. Apple slightly down on the day. It was up about 2% yesterday. And then Meta up from 555 to 580. Currently green on the day. Yeah, this is you guys are not going to get me with Morgan Stanley downgrades Palantir to $18. You guys got me enough today, all right? There's no way you're going to get me again. You could try. There's no way you're going to get me again. I welcome you to try. You guys got me 4 times this. I'm not having a 5th April Fool today, bro. I'm not becoming a fool for the 5th time today. There's no way. There's no freaking way. The Rocket Lab one was embarrassing enough. The Karp one was worse, but still. I became like a giddy schoolgirl. I'm like, oh my God, Karp, we got, and then you go, well, there's no Karp. There's no Karp. There's just April Fools. That's all there is. There's no more Karp. 121.50 on Newsmax. So it got unhalted at 135, down to 121. Then it got halted again. Dude, the suits do not want to let this thing win. The suits do not want to let this thing. I mean, they are probably so upset. They IPO this thing at $10. They massively undervalued the IPO, apparently, given the stock went up 10x. I mean, dude, you've got to be a pretty shitty bank to say, hey, you guys should go public at $10, and then it opens at 120. Like you just completely underestimated investor demand, which is something you're supposed to be able to do as an underwriter, right? You're supposed to be able to see this coming. But I guess they did not see the memification of Newsmax actually coming. 121 continues to be halted right now. PMI, did we get another PMI today? Let me see. We had Chicago PMI yesterday. Oh, yeah, we had ISM manufacturing PMI. Okay, so, we have JOLTS today. No one told me we had JOLTS. No one wanted to tell me we have JOLTS. We have JOLTS in 14 minutes. All right, that's a big one. Global manufacturing PMI at 50.2 versus 49.8. That's a beat. That is a beat. That is correct. That is a beat. Okay, so that's good. That's a very small beat. Nothing too crazy. That's what we have on PMI. So 50.2 versus 49.8. Jolts is tomorrow. Jolts is in 15 minutes. Where's the mark? S&P. Oh, wow. We actually got 3 green candles on that. Look at that. We went from 0.5 down to 0.3 on that PMI number. Above 50 is what is important. Correct. Above 50 is what's important. Isn't it your responsibility to look for economic reports? It is. But still, you guys should have told me there was jolts. I didn't know about the Newsmax IPO. I didn't know about jolts. I'm like finding this out right now. But ISM manufacturing PMI, 50.2 versus 49.5. That is a beat, even though it is a slight beat. And the S&P reacting with green candles. I mean, you know what's really good about that? We keep getting all these negative GDP growth projections. I think Goldman Sachs still has us at 1.7% for Q1, whereas the Atlanta Fed has us at negative 2.8%. The more expanding we are as an economy in manufacturing, services, et cetera, which means we need to be above 50. Below 50 means we're contracting. The better chance we have of actually meeting those GDP estimates. And look at the S&P right here, bro. $1 away from going green. Nvidia goes green. Tesla's green. Robinhood just went green. It looks like that PMI number might have been the catalyst. The Qs just went green. Bitcoin's been green all day. Bitcoin's trying to go for 84. Right now it's at 83.8. Everything's kind of flipping right. Even Rocket Lab was down 4%. Now it's only down 1.3%. If we get a good JOLTS number in 12 minutes, maybe that changes. Guys, the muted is not going to work. It's not going to work. There's no way. There's no way. You guys got me that in the first 30 seconds. There's no way the muted is going to work. There's no freaking way. You guys can try as much as you want. It's not going to work. You guys can keep spamming it. It's not going to work. There's no freaking way. Especially because I just went on YouTube to make sure the mic was working. So there's literally no way, bro. Which means I kind of fell for it, but I kind of didn't. I said I don't believe you guys, and I just confirmed on my phone. I wasn't like checking to make sure I was second doubting myself. It's not going to work, bro. You can keep trying. It's not going to work. It is not going to work. Yeah, video not working. Good one. That's, you guys got to be more creative than that. Amit, did you look into the gold movement from yesterday? Well, gold was up about 2%. I mean, gold is on its, gold has been up for the past, gold's up 18% the past quarter. So, or sorry, 8% over the past quarter. It's one of the best quarters since July 2020. So I don't think the gold movement yesterday was to any specific headline outside of the April 2nd volatility the market's expecting, creating massive global trade wars across the world, right? If we don't get that, then yeah, I don't think gold necessarily has to keep spiking the way it is. But yesterday's movement, along with today's movement, is primarily based off that assumption around April 2nd. Gold is up again today, another 0.47%. So been one of the best performing assets of Q1. And today's the first day of Q2. So gold is now officially going to be tracked going into Q2 along with the rest of the market as well. The 10-year, where's the 10-year? We are 4.182. That's probably good news for Besant and Trump. They're probably happy that we're at least getting to these levels. Jolts in 10 minutes is going to be important. So how much is the market expecting? The market thinks we're going to have 7.6 million jobs open. Last time we had 7.7. For all the people that are saying that the data is cooked, or that said the Biden administration cooked all the data, I mean, if we get a beat on jolts, either the data is not cooked or either the Trump administration is cooking the data, because this is the second time we're getting jolts data from the Trump administration. So if we get a massive decrease in jolts, I think there's some credence to the Biden administration probably cooking some of the data and keeping it artificially elevated. If we don't get a significant decrease in the number of jobs open, if not, we get more jobs that are open than expected, which for us to beat last month 7.7 million, we would need to see some real expansion. I don't think we're there yet. Then I don't know if the numbers were ever necessarily cooked. It just means that we had a ton of jobs constantly open, which makes sense. Because I mean, like over the past couple of years, we were adding like 200,000-300,000 jobs a month. Now we're at like 150. But I don't think the data is necessarily horrible. Now, one thing you can point to is that it's not about the Biden administration or the Trump administration cooking the books. It's more so a question of ghost jobs, which are a real thing. These jobs that like you can apply to on LinkedIn, but no one's ever going to reach out to you. But the companies want to get the applicants to like be able to sift through talent, even though they're not actually going to hire anyone. So there is an argument that we have a lot of ghost jobs. But if we come out with like 8 million jobs or something, then that is definitely, I think, bullish for growth, not the most bullish for inflation, but I don't know if we can say that the job numbers are cooked at that point. Amit, there's a spider on your left shoulder. That's amazing. You know, I'm actually not afraid of spiders. Some people, what I am afraid of are mice. I'm afraid of mice. Like mice, I can't stand mice, dude. Like if I see a mice run, I'll jump on the bed. I'll be so scared. But spiders, I don't care. Mice are a different creature, bro. All right, thank you, Christina, for agreeing with me. Mice are like, dude. Like I get shivers in my spine seeing a mice. We had a mice problem back in our old house. I think like 7 years ago, and we had to get an exterminator, but it was bad, dude. I would go to sleep so scared that I would wake up and see one of those. Dude, I cannot handle mice. It is just scary for mice. Dude, you guys got to be more creative. Robinhood did not get into the S&P 500 today, but I did get to talk to one of the Robinhood employees, and when I was at the gold event, and I was like, so Williams Sonoma. And she got so mad. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe they picked Williams Sonoma over us. And I was like, yeah, there's just no way. I still don't believe it. By the way, remember when we were doing the gold trivia with Scott Rogowski and I lost because Apple apparently was the first $1 trillion company? The Robinhood Gold team had that live stream on their TV in their war room, and they were watching the whole thing. So they were seeing the entire chat. They were seeing me lose on question number 9 about the Apple $1 trillion thing, and they were watching the entire thing play out, and they loved it, dude. They were like, that was so cool, just like watching that whole thing, because they built the product, right? So they finally got to see the product be used on a bigger scale. And so they got to see me embarrass myself on that Apple question. But they loved it. It was super cool, and hopefully we get more stuff like that. By the way, we did get a new announcement from Robinhood today. They are entering into some new deals with 23XI Racing. I don't know what this is, but excited to announce that we're joining forces with 23XI Racing as their official investing partner. Does anyone know what 23XI Racing is? I've never heard of this before. I thought they would be with like NASCAR or F1. I don't even know if this is different from NASCAR or F1. Is this like an F1 team or something? It's a NASCAR team. Okay, it's a NASCAR team. All right, so it looks like they're sponsoring a NASCAR team. Which, I'm not the biggest guy on sports sponsorships. I really don't care that much about them, but they are diversifying their distribution, which is what they need to be doing. So they went from NBA to now NASCAR. Maybe we'll see where they go next. Maybe soccer, maybe NFL, but it looks like they are diversifying their brand presence in different places now. It's Michael Jordan's NASCAR team? Really? Michael Jordan owns it. Is this another April Fool's? Michael Jordan X1 Racing. Oh, no, he actually owns it. All right, cool. He actually owns it. Dope. That's good. That's good. Cool. I did not know that. All right. Well, they are now partnering with them. All right, we got Jolts in 5 minutes. What do you guys think? Do we have less jobs than expected or more? Less or more? 7.6 million is the number. I think we come in basically at 7.6 million. Dude, if we come in at like 7.2, 7.1, and we lost 500,000 quote unquote jobs that were open, then yeah, we are seeing the potential ramifications of the tariff policy leading to a lack of hiring, more unemployment, less jobs available, yada, yada. I don't think we're going to get that many more jobs than expected. I think it'll be slightly less. So the market wants 7.6. I think we'll get to like 7.4. That's my bet. If not right at that level. Last time we actually came in more than expected. Last time the market, I think, wanted 7.5. We came in at 7.74, something like that. So this one's going to be really interesting today. See what that looks like. Laura says we had layoffs a few weeks ago. I saw a couple of headlines this morning, actually, about more layoffs in a variety of companies. So the layoffs are definitely creeping up. They're not as bad as I think they were in 2022 when it was like really aggressive. But I am seeing a lot more headlines of that. Until we get Jolts, here's Besant yesterday speaking a bit more about Liberation Day.
April 2nd, we are going to disclose the reciprocal tariffs. I'm not going to get out ahead of President Trump. He's going to announce them 3 o'clock on Wednesday. And I think for the first time in decades, probably since I was a college student, we're going to see a fair trade, and everyone will have the opportunity to they lower their tariffs, lower their non-tariff barriers, stop the currency manipulation, stop subsidizing labor, stop subsidizing, stop providing cheap loans, and they make the global trading system fair for American workers again. And if President Trump campaigned on this, he has a mandate. As you know, he had a substantial electoral college majority. He won all 7 swing states, and he won the popular vote. So he has a mandate to do this. He's doing what he promised he would do.
Okay.
He's bringing
Let's
jobs
talk
home.
about.
So regardless of that mandate, the stock market's going to feel the effects of that tomorrow. Again, when you listen to Bazant say stuff like that, it looks like they're more serious than not. And so tomorrow is going to be the answer to a lot of these questions. This was one of the headlines I was talking about this morning. So the Trump administration is now beginning layoffs at the CDC and FDA as a part of their 10,000 jobs that they're cutting in the health sector within the government. So not only are we seeing companies announce layoffs, we're seeing the federal government start to downsize in regards to the amount of jobs that they're cutting, which again, the 10-year, the bond market probably likes that, but those are real jobs at the end of the day that are getting cut. And so I think that could be another thing that increases unemployment, but also potentially decreases the number of jobs available with the JOLTS as well. And that 10,000 jobs is not April Fool's. I mean, that was a real headline from Reuters this morning here. So I think, I think from that perspective, if we do see more and more of the layoffs ticking up, it is going to be a real question of like, all right, when does that come into the unemployment picture? And then someone asked right here, isn't that good for inflation? Yeah, that is really good for inflation. Because, if you have less jobs, you have less people spending, you have less inflation. However, it's one of those things where it's like, you don't really want to see people lose their livelihood just for inflation to come down. You want to see other ways to navigate that, which is what JPAT was able to do last year. He was able to navigate a lack of unemployment with inflation coming down. This year, now that you have tariffs, it just totally switches the dynamic. And we're going to have to see over the coming months if he can manage it from that perspective. The Tomley interview is going to be not on Friday. No, actually, it is going to be tomorrow. Yes. Oh, yeah, you're right. So Evan, Tom had to reschedule it for tomorrow. I think it's at 5 p.m. though. So tomorrow market close. Tomley will be on the show. I'll be doing it with Evan through Twitter audio or X Spaces or whatever. So yeah, tomorrow 5 p.m. we'll have Tomley on the show for like 45 minutes and we'll get to talk to him. All right, here we go. ISM new orders comes in at 45.2 versus 48.5. That's a miss by about 3 points. This is trading economics for those that are wondering. JOLTS quits comes in at 3.195 versus 3.2. That's a little bit less than expected, which is not horrible. Manufacturing prices comes in at 69.4 versus 68. That's a little bit more aggressive, which means we're paying a little bit more to make our products. JOLTS 7.56. All right, that's pretty much exactly what I thought. The market wanted 7.63. We have 7.56 million jobs open. And ISM manufacturing employment came in at 44.7 versus 47.5. Again, that's a bit of a miss. That's not the best. Construction spending month over month came in at 0.7% from 0.3%. That's actually an increase against expectations, which is good. So construction spending beat. ISM new orders missed. ISM manufacturing prices missed. JOLTS beat. Job openings missed, but it was a very slight miss. And then manufacturing PMI, that missed at 49 versus 49.5. Slight miss, but that is also a miss. Is the market dumping on this? Is the market dumping? Are we dumping? Well, yeah, there you go. We got some red candles. I mean, it's not that different from early this morning, but we're down about 0.5%. Robinhood's down 1%. Qs are, the Qs were green. They went red. Nvidia was green. It went red. SoFi was green. It went red. Google still holding up. CleanSpark holding up. Marathon went red. Target slightly holding up. CoreWeave up 8% of the day. That's doing well for CoreWeave. Where's Newsmax? That one's still at 135. That's up 60 freaking percent. That one's not let up. The rest of these stocks basically flat on the day. Netflix down a little bit. Uber's down a little bit. Carvana's down a little bit. And Rocket Lab down about 2.8%. Tesla still holding on to its green. There's a red candle right there, but still holding on to some of its green. Okay, cool. So that wasn't that big of a deal. That wasn't that bad. The JOLTS number, so 7.5 million versus 7.63 million. So about 130,000 jobs that went away. That's not bad. I mean, that's not some dramatic number that I think J-Pow would get afraid of, or that the Trump administration would get afraid of either.
We're right around 7.5 million. Let's look at construction spending
and JOLTS right now. Let's get back to Rick Santelli. Hey, Rick.
Yes, let's start out with JOLTS, shall we? Expecting a number for our Feb read around 7,600,000. Comes in just a smidge lower, 7,568,000. 7,568,000. How does that comp? Well, that would be the lowest rate on a month-over-month basis going back to, well, the end of last year when it was 7,508,000. So we see it's coming down, but we are really starting to consolidate now. That's 3 months in a row. We're right around 7.5 million. Let's look at construction.
See, that's what I'm saying. 3 months in a row at 7.5. That's not really some meaningful decline. I mean, like, if that continues the trend and it stays at 7.5, that's not really a downtrend. It's lower than before, but it's not like every single month is going to 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. Now, if we see that happening over the next couple of months, then yeah, the JOLTS, you could say, is getting definitively worse, and that we're losing a ton of jobs. But this is not like some dramatic decline versus what was expected. But I think the next coming months, we'll see how bad it actually gets.
Spending for February, expecting up 0.3, Carl. It's double plus, up 0.7, almost 0.75%. That would be the strongest rate going back to October of last year. And last month, here's the problem, -0.2 moves to -0.5% in the January read. Now let's look at ISM manufacturing, the PMIs, the headline number, 49.0, a little bit lower than expectations.
Even that, dude, 49 versus 49.5. Is that a miss? Yeah. Is that recession? No. You know, so like that's not conclusive enough to get super bearish. The market's going to tank on this because the market's always going to tank on this stuff. But I don't know if this has a lot of legs behind it to necessarily get bad, especially because the PMI we got yesterday was a big beat. So you've got a lot of conflicting pieces of data that's not definitively, okay, everything's contracting versus everything's expanding.
And it puts us back in contraction territory, which means we're going back to the end of last year, where we basically had all 12 months under 50. And January, February of this month, we're above 50. And of course, this is a March reading. If we look at prices paid, we'd prefer they go down, but that's not the case. 64 plus expected, 69.4, 69.4. That would be the highest rate. We have to really go back on this. That'll be the highest rate going to, well, June of 22. If we look at 45.2, that's new orders. That's definitely about 3 points light and sequentially lower. 45.2 would be the weakest rate since May of 23. And finally, if we look at the employment side, employment at 44.7, an important week. Of course, we're going to have Wednesday and Friday employment reports. 44.7 is about 3 points less than expectations. And that would be the weakest level going back to, well, mid last year. And here's something we want to pay attention to. Every single number here, but prices paid, is sequentially lower. And it's unfortunate because prices paid is the one you really want to be sequentially lower. Yields, as Sarah pointed out, continue to move lower. 415 in a 10-year will be down 6 basis points on the day. We're looking at the very minimum, if it closed here, a 1-month low yield close. The short end, not as aggressive as it was yesterday. 2 years yesterday closed at the lowest level since early October of 24. Sarah, back to you.
Not great, Rick. Not a great mix of data there that you just reported. Thank you very much, Rick Santelli.
We'll get back to that in a bit. And I would agree, it's not great at all. I mean, you got a couple contracting numbers right here. The big one that I think people cared about, which was JOLTS, it just wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Again, where does a recession come from? A recession comes from people not having jobs. And so we need to see in the data that there is definitive evidence that there is a lack of supply of jobs, or that there are a supply of jobs, but companies don't want to give out those jobs because they're afraid for whatever reason to hire more people. Unemployment data hasn't really proven that. I mean, the reason J-Pow hasn't really cut rates yet, and the reason why probabilities for rate cuts are still below 20% for May, is because JOLTS data has not been that bad over the past couple of months, and non-farm payrolls was better than expected 2 Fridays ago, and we get, I think, the next one this Friday. We get non-farm payrolls again this Friday. So we'll see this Friday if it's worse than what it was last month. But we still haven't got that job data that's like, oh my God, this is so bad. And like, this is like calling for like, we haven't had Jeremy Siegel call for an emergency rate cut because of the jobs data being that bad. But yeah, I mean, look, not the best macro data. Market's probably going to throw a hissy fit about it. I don't know if it's enough to necessarily create some dramatic decline. Tomorrow, I could see a real decline happening because of tariffs, but not because of ISM being at 49 versus 49.5. Newsmax at 160, up another 92% on the day, and now it is halted. Where's the 10-year? Is the 10-year down on this data? Okay, good. At least the 10-year is down. So 4.146. So that's good. Investors are buying bonds because they're afraid that the J-Powell will now have a better shot of cutting rates, which will decrease the yield on their 10-year because this data is showing the economy is technically slowing down. So at least that's one good thing coming from this data, which is bond yields going down, but they are not down. They're down a lot compared to last Friday. They're not down as much compared to last week, but at least they're back down to 4.1. Newsmax 160. This is insane, bro. This is insane. Be honest. Did any of you guys buy this thing? We won't judge. Be honest. Don't April Fools. Did you actually buy this thing? I'm curious who bought this. They're buying bonds because they're scared. Yeah, but that's what. But again, that's what Trump wants them to be. The administration, I feel, wants the bond market to be afraid of touching risk. And I know some people don't agree with this, but I think the administration truly does want yields to come down more than anything. And so, how do you get yields to come down? Well, you introduce a lot of risk into risk-on assets like equities, which, quite frankly, might be part of the reason why the tariffs are so intense that they're planning to unveil tomorrow. Regardless of why they're buying it, we need bond yields to come down. And so they can be buying it for whatever reason, but I don't know if we make any meaningful progress with this administration's paradigm on how they think about the economy, much less the stock market, unless rates come down. And that means people have to buy up some bonds. Nvda right here at 107, Newsmax still halted. Just insane, dude. Absolutely insane to be trading at these levels. 160. Volume's only 2 million shares, too. It's not like a lot of shares have been traded today. But still. ChatGPT has hit 20 million paid subscribers. The information. Okay, that's cool. So they're doing what, 400 million? Is that 400 million a month? Right? Hold on, let me see. A ChatGPT subscription is how much? $20? Yeah, that is, 20 million. It's a hell of a number on paid subscriptions. What's the difference between halt and suspended? There's not a real difference. Some brokerages use different words. This one's halted right now. It gets suspended throughout the day sometimes, but then it ends up getting unsuspended. I think it's when it's like delisted is when it's just like not trading at all anymore. But I don't think there's the biggest difference. Yeah, 400 million a month. So if you're paying $20 a month, 20 million users, $400 million a month. Wow. They're losing a lot of money on this still. Dude, I don't know, man. If they get to 50 million people and they're just making $1 billion a month off subscriptions, and that's all they have outside of like the enterprise revenue, that's still a pretty impressive business. It's just obviously they would be losing a lot of money to handle all that compute. S&P is now starting to get a little bit of a hit, down about 0.83%. So now we're seeing some actual pain. Again, it says Newsmax is halted. It was suspended for a bit. Now it's halted. I think it'll be unhalted in a second. But people are taking this one higher. Celsius up 2.3. Robinhood down about 1.6. Nvidia again 1.52. That's down. SoFi down 0.34. And then Palantir now down about 2% on the day. Verizon as well is currently down. Oh yeah, people are also paying 200. I forgot. That's fair. Some people are paying $200 a month. Yeah, so that number might not be as accurate. That is fair. It has to be more than 400 million then if some people are paying $200. Who knows, man? Maybe Masa-san and SoftBank are really seeing the numbers and they're like, this thing's just going to keep growing like crazy. Like they announced yesterday, okay, Newsmax unhalted, still at 160. They announced yesterday at 500 million weekly active users. I don't think Grok has 500 million weekly actives. Neither does Gemini. Like I think GPT is the only one with that many weekly active users. And when that becomes daily active, which I think inevitably that'll happen, you know, that could be an argument for why the valuation's up there. All right, so Newsmax is still pumping 170, up 101% on the day. It's only a matter of time till this gets halted again. Fear and greed index is currently at 18. So we're in extreme fear again. We were at 24 yesterday. So that one has started to come down. Dude, we haven't looked at DJT in so long. DJT at $19. Yeah, we haven't looked at that in a minute. That's up about 1% of the day. Wow, 173. My goodness, dude. Holy freaking crap. I'm not chasing it. But it is quite incredible to see. Only the stock market, right? Well, I guess crypto as well, but this is the cool thing about the markets. Even if you're not in this trade, just to see this happen. Dude, hold on. Let me go to Wall Street Bets. They've got to, but there's no way Wall Street Bets is not talking about this right now. Wall Street Bets, Newsmax. Let's see. Someone's got to be talking about this, bro. 180 now. My goodness, 180.4, 120% on the day. I don't see any threads on this yet. Okay, I saw someone just bought 25,000 shares of GameStop. Dude, these guys are still obsessed with GameStop. Like, there's a new guy in town. It's called Newsmax. The GameStop cult is something different, bro. That cult, my goodness. They love that company so much. So freaking much. Newsmax, 178. It's acting identical to a hot meme coin launch on Solana. That is correct. That is absolutely correct. That's what it's acting like. Yeah, there's no option chain available. We can't buy puts yet. The put premiums are going to be crazy, but it might be worth it. All right, just fell for it. Got wicked down from 185 to 170 just now. That's an aggressive move down. Now it's right back to 172. Still up 103%. Wow. Wow. The GameStop apes have like 5 years of documents, which have all been wrong, but they are still waiting. Dude, I've heard some crazy conspiracy theories when I like went down some of the Reddit forums. They like connected so many dots trying to make an argument for what GameStop's going to do next. And like, it's like 2022 Palantir investors trying to connect the dots, but like there was an actual like puzzle with pieces that if we connected them, we would find out about the puzzle. Because there's an actual company behind Palantir. With GameStop, I just think the whole thing is puzzling. It's not a puzzle. It's just the whole thing is nothing real. I mean, the fact that they diluted shareholders by $1 billion to raise money to buy freaking Bitcoin, they're kind of late to the party when it comes to this whole Bitcoin strategic reserve stuff. But the fact that that's the best idea they have left, it's just like at some point, like why don't they just sell themselves out and like end the misery versus just keeping investors along the journey for this thing that's probably never going to materialize. But they do have a lot in cash. So if they wanted to do something, they could take some action. I don't think insiders can sell 50%. I mean, like insiders are in a lockup period when they IPO, right? We're back at 180 on Newsmax. Usually you have like 6 months until you can start selling, unless they have a different lockup period. Dude, if I was an insider, oh my gosh, would I be trying to sell? I'd be on the phone with every lawyer today. I'd be like, get me out. Do something, bro. I don't know if they're ever going to see these prices again. Like, it IPOs at $10. The stock's $185. I mean, I would pay as much money to as many lawyers as possible to find a way to let me sell some freaking shares. Because a radio TV company with crappy margins, it's not a tech company, so it's never going to get a tech multiple. For them to be trading at a $23 billion market cap, I don't know if it makes me more scared about the state of the markets that this is happening, or like excited that this whole tariff volatility, recession stuff is not a real thing because you have this much excitement and animal spirits left in the market. I'm kind of leaning towards more scared though. Like people are, or like maybe it's a rejection of the Max 7. Maybe people are so upset that Nvda has been, trashed this whole year that they're taking out their frustrations and they're buying up Newsmax, which is about to hit $190. But it is something that's creating this type of reaction. Tesla right here up 1.2%, the S&P 500 down about 0.87%. My friend got in at 10 and he's not allowed to sell shares for a month. Well, I would imagine the insiders are under some of the same ideas as well. Okay, we talked about Jolt, we talked about ISM, we talked about the ChatGPT paid subscriptions. We talked about the Trump 10,000 health cuts at the CDC and FDA. We did talk about the Tesla registrations as well. They were really bad in Europe, really good in China. I think those are our main headlines. Wells Fargo reiterated Tesla is our underweight pick. It's like their worst pick of the year. So basically they're saying stay away. But they're saying go overweight on Roku, Dollar Tree, Capital One, and Eli Lilly. Underweight Tesla. So those are the main tactical ideas that Wells Fargo put out today. Yeah, we talked about the Robinhood thing with the 23XI racing. I thought it was going to be something else, but Tanner had an idea yesterday of what if it's event contracts on like the F1 races, which I think could be a possibility. So, I mean, I could definitely see that happening, but yeah, it's just more marketing, more and more distribution and more marketing for Robinhood. Newsmax loses less money than CNN and has about 10x more viewership. This valuation is kind of justified if you compare to CNN. Yeah, but is CNN... Okay, so Newsmax at this valuation is $23 billion. What do we think CNN is worth? But like realistically, like maybe $2 billion? I don't know anything about the numbers. I'm just assuming kind of the viewership they get, about 500,000 viewers in prime time, like maybe $2 billion bucks. Like, does Newsmax deserve to be trading 10x the amount of CNN? At the end of the day, all of these are legacy media companies, cable TV and radio. And I'm not saying these brands are dying out, but like in the next 10 years, do we think cable TV and radio is going to be that much bigger than it is today? Like it's just in a market that's not really growing from a TAM perspective either. So unless they have a big digital push, but even if they become a digital first media company, media is a crappy business. Like media does not get a multiple in the stock market because it's media. You have to pay a lot of money to get talent. You don't have a tech multiple. Like the reason YouTube gets a multiple is because people upload content and then YouTube uses a lot of technology to distribute that content. But Fox News doesn't get the same multiple because Fox News has to pay Sean Hannity and all these people millions of dollars a year, and then they just sell ads against it. The business model is very simple, but it's not like it has this infinite scale that could result in hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue a year like YouTube and Google have. Aren't you media, Mitt? Yes, I am media, and it's a crappy business. Like I've not done any sponsorships or anything like that, right? And that's the real way you make money with media. You have to take sponsorships. You have to have some logos at the bottom of the screen or stuff. I don't like the appeal of that, so I don't do that. But that's how you make money in this business. I like media because of the brand building, and I think when you build a brand, you can then use that brand in a lot of ways in the future. But you have to be really patient to be able to do that. I'm playing the long game here. But if you want to make money off media, you got to sell out, and that's just like not easy to do on the corporate side or on the independent side. And if you do it on the corporate side, again, there's just like, it's great for, like Sean Hannity makes a ton of money, right? He's living a great life. Anderson Cooper, tons of money, right? I think they get paid almost $20 million a year. But CNN and Fox don't really make that much money off of them because their margins are kind of crappy. So for the talent, it's great. But for the company itself, like I wouldn't be an investor in those companies because like, what are you really investing in? It's just advertising at that point. Google right here, about to go red, up 0.22. Nvda definitely red, down 1.7. It did not hit the lows of yesterday at 103, but we are still down. And then SoFi down about 0.77%. Is that why you never ask viewers to subscribe? Yeah, I when I started YouTube in 2021, I I never asked people to subscribe because I was just like, if they want to subscribe, they'll subscribe. And I know some people think that's stupid, but like realistically, like if you really want to subscribe, you'll subscribe. Like me saying, hey guys, please like and subscribe. Like, no, like if you really like the content, you'll like it. And if you want more of it, you'll subscribe. So to me, it's kind of like let the product, talk for itself here. But yeah, you just have to do a lot of sponsorship and corporate stuff to be able to make money here. Did you see Meet Kevin quit YouTube? Are you April fooling me? I don't think Meet Kevin can't quit YouTube, dude. He loves YouTube too much. Yeah, he posted a video yesterday, bro. He didn't quit YouTube. Meet Kevin is obsessed with. That's the one thing I respect about him a lot, his work ethic. He loves just like being there to put out the content. So I doubt he's going to be quitting YouTube anytime soon. Are there any perks to subscribers? No. You just get to see my thumbnails in your feed. That's it. Yes, the NY Yankees are on my cap. All right, we got some new people here. Dude, it was so funny. Steve was like, name one player off the Yankees. I was like, Alex Rodriguez. Like, I don't know anything about sports, bro. And I used to be a sports junkie. Newsmax, by the way, back down from 190 to 167. I used to be such a sports junkie. But now I just don't care. Dude, you're going to have to try harder. Trump did not stop all the tariffs. You guys got to be more creative, bro. Guys got to be more creative. Newsmax got halted. I don't see it halted yet. Oh, no, it is. It is halted. Yep, there you go. Tesla holding on, 264. By the way, Elon's having some baby mama drama as of yesterday. Ashley St. Clair, his latest baby mama, she called paparazzi to record her selling her Tesla. And then when they asked her why she's selling her Tesla, she's like, because Elon's not paying child support. And then Elon responds on Twitter and he's like, look, I don't know if the kid is mine or not, but I gave her 2.5 million already and I'm giving her 500,000 a year. So we can do a test, but even without doing the paternity test, I'm giving her tons of money. And in my opinion, I think the kid is definitely Elon's, because why would you give someone millions of dollars if you don't think the kid is yours? Like at the very least, you would go get a test if you're really confident that I'm pretty sure the kid is his and he knows the kid is his, which is why he's wanting to pay this child support. But apparently she wants a lot more than 500 grand a year. So yeah, that was it. It is so interesting, bro. Elon's trying to freaking fix the government deficit. He's trying to get Tesla to not be the world's most hated brand, which it's on the list of getting there. He's trying to get rockets into Mars. And then he's paying child support or arguing about how much child support he should pay. Dude has lived a full life, bro. Lived a full freaking life. Like he is absolutely hitting every life experience that you could imagine. Yeah, I don't think he really has any interest in being with her. But look, as soon as he admitted I gave her 2.5 million and I'm paying her 500,000 a year, I'm like, okay, so you admit like there's probably a good shot the kid is yours, right? Like even if you're not wearing jeans and your name isn't Billy, the kid might be yours. So at some point you got to pay up for that. All right, let's get back to some updates on PMI and then we'll keep going from there.
Little inflation there in the lower job openings, weaker manufacturing, but higher prices paid, which, as Rick said, we don't necessarily want to have. The question is, what's happening with the economy and what's going to happen with tariffs as it relates to the impact on the economy? Some notable points stood out to me. Comments, for instance, from the head of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, who did acknowledge in a recent interview that growth expectations are coming down, but said we're not seeing a dramatic impact of tariffs yet. If there would be a small downward correction, where she's talking about growth, we don't see a recession on the horizon. So I thought that was notable. As far as some of the other commentary on the street, people aren't really talking recession just yet, but are talking about slowdown and are talking about risks to the downside. Here's S&P. The risk to our baseline firmly downside. We are watching the effects on demand from protracted U.S. policy uncertainty. Should this materialize, the result would be a material slowdown in growth. Canaccord also warning about it. Here's Bank of America. In fact, they say not yet. Our 3 global cycle indicators remain positive, which suggests a downturn in U.S. economic and earnings data is not yet a foregone conclusion. So again, it's not all doom and gloom. Here's Canaccord. While backward-looking hard data points to a resilient economy, as reflected in the upward revision to GDP data, historically low unemployment, the soft data survey signal growing concerns around the future. And it really comes down to the soft.
And again, you're going to hear a lot more about soft data, hard data. Whenever the hard data or so the soft data starts to become like hard data, aka everything that we see in the consumer surveys results in like the company earnings or the job numbers, that's when we know we're having a big more of an issue that could obviously be very bad for the markets. But right now, we're not necessarily seeing that yet.
Survey data, and that's what's been flashing the biggest warning signs, I would argue. Consumer confidence is one. Katie Huberty had a chart today, which was from late March, 2,000 consumers that they surveyed over at Morgan Stanley, and you can see where expectations are going for the next 6 months in the economy. The orange line is staying the same, which has come down, and then the a lot little worse line has spiked up. So that's the confidence problem. Question is, does confidence actually spell big trouble for the economy? That's what economists are on guard for. It's what we're starting to see in the price action. Gold had its best quarter, what, in decades?
Well, the best start to a year since '74, which doesn't sound great.
No, that's like when gold is working that well, there's something usually not great. I'm also starting to watch the credit market because that had been behaving really, really nicely. And people thought, oh, no recession, credit's all good. But, starting last week, we have seen spreads widen out for both investment.
That is true. She's right about that. And the more those credit spreads widen out, that is your first sign that, all right, we've got some potential issues going on in the market. We've talked about mortgage. We talked about auto loans, all that stuff. So that is another thing that I think we have to keep an eye on, because the more they spread out, the more that's the market basically saying we are taking down our equity risk premium right now.
It's been great in high yield.
Yeah, oversubscription multiples, David, haven't been as robust. Some CDS on IG starting to move.
That's important. I mean, not to obviously dwell on the obvious, but because to Sarah's point, spreads have not really widened at all, and that's something a lot of people will come back to and say there's not any real. Yes, there's tumult in the equity markets, but this is what's important. So you do want to keep a close eye on credit spreads. Again, I don't want to make too much of it.
No, it's not like recessionary signals, but we're watching them move. And I do think a lot depends on what we get tomorrow. I mean, there are some big, because it's hard to make a recession call or an economy call without knowing the shape of what is going to be announced tomorrow. So I just made a list of just questions that I have as it will relate to the announcements tomorrow and what that could mean for growth. Is it all countries get tariffs? Or is it just the, top 15 trade deficits or top 10? Europe, he's talked a lot about Europe, pointing finger. Is it going to be one trading bloc, or is it going to be like Ireland is worse because their tax rates are more favorable, right, for U.S. companies? Are they going to be treated individually? We don't know the magnitude. Is it going to be 20%, 25%? Is it going to be more tailored, for instance? Can they get unwound, or are they going to be permanent? Is there some sort of off-ramp? Because that factors into the economic forecast. Again, universal. Is it going to be across the board, or is it going to be actually reciprocal, like it was teased? When do they get implemented? Is there room for some sort of negotiation leading up to that? And then, is it just going to be tariff for tariff, or is it going to be VAT taxes and exchange rates and other taxes and other ways that the administration has looked at other countries as being unfair when it comes to us? All of these questions, and there's probably a lot more, this was just off the top of my head, matter a lot as it relates to where this market and the economy is going.
We expect that we're going to actually get answers to all those questions is, of course, another question.
True. We know there's going to be an event at the Rose Garden tomorrow afternoon,
we do know
so
that.
we'll
Perhaps
we'll
if the
get some
Washington
sort of
Post
answer.
is leading towards, and it is in fact 20% across the board, that kind of answers many of the questions at least.
And Jeff Stein, who wrote the Washington Post piece that we talked about this morning, does write later this morning. He says, I've heard it pretty widely from Trump and Trump-adjacent people that the tailored approach creates opportunities for you to direct exports through countries that are tariffed at a lower rate. Why would you do that? Right? It's the whole label washing discussion we've had about Vietnam for years.
Particularly if you really are also looking to produce revenue, which does seem to be an important component, at least, of what they've been articulating.
especially if you're going to be cutting income taxes. Yeah, we got to be able to create some revenue here. Sachin says the vibe is like LTCM type in 1998. No one expected 1999 after 1997 Asian financial crisis, 1998, and a couple of countries defaulting. Yet 1999 and Q1 2000 was epic. This is going to be really interesting, bro, because we had 2022 that was crappy, which you could argue needed to be crappy in order to at least get rates to a meaningful level to combat inflation, given the money printing of 2020. And then 2023, 2024 have been the first 2 years of what people are arguing is a 5-year cycle in a pretty aggressive bull market. The third year, which is 2025, always tends to be a little tough to deal with, which is what we're in right now. And quite frankly, what makes it even harder to deal with, Newsmax right here, 150, is that we did have inflation coming down. It was at 4.2 or 2.4 in September, and then it became obvious Trump was going to win. And then this is hard data. This is not some conspiracy. Imports went up dramatically because everyone wanted to avoid tariffs. So even though maybe investors weren't taking the tariff stuff seriously, Walmart and Best Buy were, and they imported a crap ton of stuff, which means they don't need to import that much in Q1, which is why GDP is looking like it's going to go negative. And that theoretically created a bit more inflation in the system, because when you got every big manufacturer and distributor front running the tariffs by increasing the level of velocity on the amount of products they're importing, yeah, you're going to have a lot more demand, and that'll create some supply chain bottlenecks as well. And so the Trump administration going into 2025, I think there is an argument for why they have brought inflation back to an extent. And now, obviously, tariffs are the cherry on top on how aggressive this inflation narrative can become. The one thing that I'm still curious about is that, again, J-Powell and Goolsbee called called tariff inflation transitory. And the more I think about it, if we do a 20% universal reciprocal tariff across the board, even if we cut taxes for a bit, which might offset the purchasing power that people have, that's going to make things more expensive. Like in what world does that not make a 20% tariff on everything? I feel like things go up a little bit in price. And if it doesn't, I mean, like, the Trump administration figured out the best economic policy ever to tariff stuff, but prices don't go up. So if the tariff inflation is not necessarily transitory, then the market's going to have to figure out how to deal with that. And we're also going to have to figure out what happens with earnings growth as a result of it. Sachin says the Fed chair called in 1996 concerned about inflated valuation, and yet the NASDAQ went a few times over that. And since then, the AI bubble can do that as well. Yeah, that's kind of the Gene Munster theory, right? Which is that we will have some epic bubble and epic collapse. But it will happen years from now until we actually get to heights that we haven't seen before. Which, who knows? Maybe that's 7,000 on the S&P. Maybe that's 8,000 if we ever get there. But I think a lot of people do think eventually there will be some level of a collapse. Tesla right here up 2.93% of the day, 266.74. Did hit 271 in the pre-markets. Right now at 266. Someone said Liberation Day is liquidation day. Oh my gosh, dude. Holy crap. 25% tariff should give a 20% tax cut to equal it out. I think that's what the administration is trying to say they're going to do. With this whole, if you make less than 150K, you're not going to have to pay income tax, etc. Which means technically your purchasing power should be stable if prices are higher, but you have more money that you get to keep that you're not paying to the government. But then where's the net increase in terms of government revenues, right? Like, that's why that Peter Navarro clip was so weird. He was like, yeah, we're going to collect 600 billion in revenue. It's like, yeah, first of all, A, are those numbers true? B, are we going to make up for the money that we're not collecting in tax revenue? And you can't have both. You can't say, oh, well, we're going to keep taxes the same and we're going to also increase tariffs, because then things will get more expensive and people will literally not have the money to buy them because they're going to be paying taxes. And cost of goods go up, purchasing power goes down. That's not a solution. Unless we meaningfully cut costs to try to make a dent in the deficit. But even then, if we don't have growth, that's not the best thing in the world. Also, if you looked at the data yesterday, the federal government in the first 3 months of the year spent $1.9 trillion. That is official data from yesterday. Last time this year in Q1, we spent 1.8 trillion. So slightly above what we spent in 2024 for Q1. I believe the administration wants to get that number down to about 6 trillion. Right now, we're spending about basically 6.8 trillion a year. A good chunk of the 1.9 trillion we spent in Q1 also went to servicing our debt. So as rates come down, hopefully that number can come down by the end of the year. But if we keep up that same pace, we're ready to spend 8 trillion for the year, which would be a significant increase from last year. So we got to have some cuts. We really, really got to have some cuts by the end of the year. Is Trump speaking today? No, Trump spoke last night. I don't think he's speaking today unless he has a surprise interview. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. is when Trump is speaking. Dude, we're hyping this April 2nd thing up so much. Like, I'm so curious now. What is it going to be? Just like, as an investor, and still a lot of people are not going to care about it tomorrow. Like, investors are going to really care, but a lot of people are just like the average person's not going to care that Trump's talking about tariffs on the road. The average person probably doesn't even care that tariffs are a thing. And they probably aren't thinking about the implications of tariffs yet on their day-to-day life. But as investors, we know this thing is coming and it could be pretty ugly. It's just a question to see how bad it becomes or how much it doesn't result in any real pain. 12 years ago, Bitcoin reached $100 for the first time. Cool. 12 years ago, where was I 12 years ago? It was what, 2013? Today's what, March? I was in freshman year of high school. April 1st, 2013. Yeah, I did not know about Bitcoin, dude. Dude, I wish, bro. This is what I'm saying. If you have kids and you're in the chat and they're young and, you know, you're like into investing and you try to get them into investing, I mean, like, they're just going to learn so much by the time they're in high school, college. Like, most of us, if we were lucky, most of us started learning about investing early 20s. If we were lucky, most people, it honestly happens like mid 30s, early 40s, just because that's the way, you know, the American financial education system is set up. Like, they're not trained to actually teach us when it matters. But the one thing we can do for our kids is get these guys to understand the markets, like, you know, by the time they're 10, 15 years old. Because if you make it a game for kids and like you connect it with the idea of money and all this stuff, there's so many ways I think kids can get excited about it. And as long as you raise a kid that grows up to not hate capitalism, right? Because there's some, I mean, you have some kids that just like end up getting infested with certain narratives. Grab right here, slightly red on the day. And yeah, I need to make sure my kid doesn't hate capitalism, because if they hate capitalism, they're going to hate the stock market. But we need to make sure that doesn't happen. Tesla's pumping. Are we pumping on Tesla? 269. All right, getting a little bit of pumpy pump on Tesla. 269 right here. It did touch 270 for a second. Let's see if that can keep pumping. Yeah, dude, when I have kids, I need to protect them to make sure they don't think capitalism is horrible, bro. I need to really make sure, because there's tons of, like, I could just imagine my kid scrolling YouTube one day and some YouTuber pops up and starts talking about how Elon Musk is the worst person in the world, Jeff Bezos is evil, we need to blah, 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 blah. Like, I think it's really important to protect them from, in my opinion, that nonsense. Because if you grow up hating capitalism and like hating the ability to like actually take risks and try in life and like fail and recover from your failures, and like that all to me is in line with the spirit of someone who believes in the capital markets and the fact that your risk can be rewarded, and that if you fail when you take a risk, you don't get rewarded, but that's on you because you failed, and that's okay. But just accepting the accountability that, hey, this thing didn't work, you're gonna have to try again, and you're gonna have to learn what it means to go out into the world and build something of your own. Like, those are values I want my kids to grow up with. Like, I don't want them to grow up and start hating that Bill Gates has a lot of money. Which, by the way, I don't know if I was like that in 2014. I was like that in 2014. I hated capitalism. I was like, you could have basically called me a card-carrying communist, dude. I was like, eat the rich, no billionaires, yada, yada, yada. And then, you know, I had one class of Econ 101, and I was like, oh, that's kind of stupid. Like, it's not that smart. But you got a lot of people that are stuck in that mindset forever, bro. Like, just forever. It could be really toxic. It could be really, really toxic. If my kids don't watch your stream, don't buy Palantir, don't buy Hood. In the future, I'm putting them up for adoption. Oh my gosh. Bro ate the rich so much he got rich. Yo, shout out to Mateo. Mateo, this is my boy. He left Palantir to go build a startup. I'm going to link his Twitter right here in the chat. You guys can check out his startup. He's built an entire new cryptocurrency exchange. And it probably does even more than just allow you to trade cryptos on it. But that's like one of the core functions of it. It's called GTE XYZ. This is his Twitter right here. You can check it out. And that's the website, GTE. I haven't visited the headquarters yet. I'm going to visit the headquarters probably later this month. I'm going to meet him in New York. But these Palantir alumni, bro, look at this shit. They're so ambitious. He's built an entire new exchange. Like, he's going after Coinbase, going after all those guys. So it is so cool to just see people that are ambitious actually go for it. He's also an immigrant as well. Super grateful to be in America. Super grateful to have worked at Palantir. And now he's building his own shit. So there you go. But yeah, in general, dude, I just think it's so important. Like, obviously, I don't have kids, so I'm definitely not an expert at how to raise kids or anything like that. There's his Twitter right there in the chat. But the one thing I do want to be conscious of, honestly, there's two things. Number one, gratitude. Make sure these kids are super grateful about everything in life. That's what my mom raised me with. And like, that's like the number one priority I'm going to have, is make sure they're grateful. I don't care for the small, I don't think if someone opens the door for you, you're grateful for every little thing. And then number two, the ability to fail and recover from your failures. Because God knows how many times I've failed. But the reason it's usually all right, let's get up, let's try again, is because there's a mentality of just like, we're not going to let the world bring you down when there's so much of the world left to try to conquer. So I think those are the two most important lessons I'll have. Be grateful, and then get ready to get back up after you fail. Because inevitably you're going to fail, and you got to be grateful that you even have the opportunity to try to do something. Tesla right here, 269, up 4% right here. 270, not sure why it's really pumping. Is the S&P up? Is the S&P green? The S&P is trying to go green from the 553 lows. That was when we got JOLTS data. So it is getting a rebound right here. So when it was tanking, when we got the JOLTS data, the PMI data, it's now recovering. I mean, like, yeah, the JOLTS and PMI was not as bad as what maybe Rick from CNBC maybe tried to make you feel like it was. Like, it wasn't that bad of a miss. And if it was, I don't think we would see a couple green candles right here. Tesla 269, CoreWeave up 10% on the day. Robinhood trying to go green again, 41.42. Nvidia 107. Nvidia also trying to go green, and then the Qs basically green. There you go. Qs are green. Qs are green. The 10-year 4.15. It's coming down. It's not bad. It was at 4.18, now at 4.15. Yahoo Finance posted in April Fools that Buffett acquired Tesla for $1 trillion. Dude, that's hilarious. I want to see that tweet. That must have got a lot of people, bro. Like, could you imagine Buffett buying out Tesla? First of all, $1 trillion is too cheap, dude. Elon would never sell for $1 trillion. That's nothing, bro. They've since, yeah, I would imagine they deleted it, bro. If you're a corporate account, I don't really think you have the liberty to easily get away with that. Like, if you're a Bloomberg, Yahoo, CNBC, like, there's probably a bunch of random Twitter accounts that are doing that. $1 trillion's not enough, bro. $1 trillion. Come on, bro. Tesla's going to 10 trillion. Like, we know it's happening one day. One day. It'll be at 10 T's. 270 right here on Tesla, up 4.3%. Just might take some time to get there. The ability to fail and get back up again. Yeah, 100%. 100%, dude. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes people in life, either they're not grateful for the opportunities they have, or B, they fail at one thing and they think their life's over. It's like, dude, like, Elon has failed at so many things. Karp has failed at so many things. Jensen has failed at so many things. Like, people fail. I feel like you really can't taste success until you fail. Like, it's got to be some type of failure you deal with in life, because that shows how much character you have to deal with the the ability to try to succeed. I mean, Vlad, basically the first couple of years of Robinhood's IPO was an absolute failure. And I mean, he was seen as the worst brand in finance personally. I mean, he was like people, little death threats, everything, right? If Vlad can recover from all of that, and it's still pretty bad in terms of how much people hate him, like I think anyone can get off their back and try to keep going. But it's a mentality. It is 1000% a mentality. Austin says, I have a friend who makes $300,000 a year and he's so ungrateful, complains about money nonstop. Yeah, dude. I mean, gratitude matters. It really, really does matter. Like I cringe when I see people that have so many opportunities in life, but they're not grateful, or they don't even take the time to say thank you to like the opportunities that they have in life. It could be worse, bro. That's the one thing. It could be so much more worse for everybody. I mean, you could be an AMC investor. You know, like it, like no shade to any of the AMC, but actually some shade I'm definitely throwing here. But you could be an AMC investor. Like it could be so much worse in life. Like the fact that you're in Palantir or Hood or anything other than AMC. No, but in all seriousness, like life could be a lot worse, bro. You could be living in some country where, you know, you have zero freedoms and like all that. You could just, the lottery of birth could have put you in a really crappy household. Like there's so many things that could have gone wrong. And, you know, there's always another side to how bad things can actually get. So gratitude matters. Gratitude matters. You could be an AMD investor. Oh my gosh. AMD 102. AMD down a little bit here right now. Yeah, even the Saratoga water guy says thank you in his morning routine videos. Dude, that Saratoga water has gone viral. Viral. I mean, even Karp was holding it on stage, bro. And like when the Robinhood people gave us the Saratoga water, we started laughing so hard because they're so tapped into the culture and like they tried to be so funny about it. But I've never had it before. It was the first time I had it, and I was like, oh, this is good. It's not like the most amazing water in the world. It tastes like regular water, but still, it was nice to experience the premium brand of water. All right, let's get an update right here from ISM and PMI data in the context of what are we thinking about with stagflation. Let's listen to a little bit of this, and then we'll keep going from there.
I think what we're getting, certainly from the ISM data, is that the risk of stagflation has increased, right? We've seen a deterioration in manufacturing activity at the same time we've seen prices paid increase. And while the JOLTS data is pretty stable, what we do see is an uptick or downtick, I should say, in jobs created. And that's important because there's been this delicate balance where job creation has been relatively low, but so have layoffs, as Chair Powell noted. But if we think we're going to...
Again, this is why I'm saying the layoffs have not been as dramatic as what people think it is. Now, we'll see over the coming months what the layoff data looks like. But it's another reason Jay Powell's just not in a position to cut. The labor market is just not that bad yet for him to feel like it's time to cut rates.
We're going to see layoffs increase, which I very much anticipate going forward. And we continue to have pretty tepid job growth. That's a problem. And again, underscores that message that the risk of stagflation, or at least deceleration in the economy and potential recession, is increasing.
What drives that layoff increase in your view?
So I think it's a combination of things. What we saw in the previous bout of, shall I say, tariff wars, is that there was a chilling effect on hiring, on business investment.
Wait, Saratoga is a real place? Saratoga Springs, New York? Hold on. Saratoga. Oh, shit. Oh, wait, is this where they get the water from? Saratoga Springs? Wait, is this where they get the water? Wait, this is April Fool's or no? Hold on. What the fuck? I swear I didn't know this, bro. Saratoga. What is Saratoga County, upstate New York? Bro, I did not know. Is that where they get the water from? I did not know this. I promise. I just thought it was like a brand name called Saratoga. I don't know how they made up. What is a Google? I don't know. What is a Saratoga? I don't know. Like, I didn't know it was a place. So it's like Poland Springs then, right? It's like a place. Okay, interesting. All right, maybe we need to do a meetup at Saratoga, dude. Maybe, maybe that's what we need to do.
Now, it went away rather quickly, but if tariffs were to remain longer term this time, that would certainly be problematic and create economic headwinds. But I actually think the bigger issue is DOGE and government cuts. I think I think the market is underestimating the impact on the economy because there are very, very significant ripple effects that occur when you start to cut government programs and government employees. Contractors are also getting cut. It has an impact on economies. And I think just like government spending has multiplier effects, cuts in government spending have very significant multiplier effects.
So given all of those headwinds that you mentioned, we had an investor tell us earlier this market isn't even accurately priced for tariffs. Are they accurately priced for the risks of DOGE then?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would that look like for repositioning to start to look like, okay, this market's starting to believe this administration?
Well, I think the hard part is that we just don't know how much further the administration will go. It could very well be that the administration looks at polling and says, gosh, DOGE is very unpopular, or tariffs are very unpopular. Let's pivot. And that could be
Which is a real thing for the midterms. I mean, that could happen.
the end of it, and so markets could be fairly accurately priced. But if we were to continue down this path and we were to see very significant government spending cuts, or if we were to see tariffs in place for a long time, that would certainly mean that today markets are mispriced. We just don't know, though.
So I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. And that's assuming the assumption is that growth will slow down dramatically, or that the market won't like Tesla right here, 272, that DOGE is actually decreasing the amount of government spending, which is obviously bullish for inflation coming down. So like, yes, you can definitely make an argument that theoretically the market, even though it's down 10%, is still overpriced in the context of DOGE and tariffs. You could also make the opposite argument though. And I think the opposite argument has merits as well. I also, just philosophically, and this is my opinion right here, and I think some of you might agree with this, some of you guys might not, but I think the far majority of you guys will agree. If the only reason 2023 and 2024 were these massive bull market years because the government is spending into an oblivion, as much as I hate to say this, I would rather us have some crappy years, but fix the spending problem, because it's just not sustainable. Like, we can't have an artificial stock market every year pumped up by government spending to the tune of trillions of dollars and run the deficit into what? We're at 2.3 trillion. We're going to get to 5 trillion in a couple of years. We're at 36 trillion in debt. We're going to get to 50 trillion in a decade, or less than a decade by 2035, or by 2033 was the number. Like at some point, something has to be done, right? Or do we just all accept, okay, this is all fake magic money. It's just going to keep getting printed, and we're just going to be living in this magic money society, and prices are never actually going to be accurate. Inflation is never actually going to be real. But that's the nature of the stock market, right? Like, at some point, are we just going to keep having elevated metrics across everything if it's all propped up by our tax dollars getting diluted by printing more of those dollars? So here, I agree with Austin right here. Corporate earnings, 100% were not pumped by government spending. I agree. However, you can make an argument that there are different ways in which corporations benefit. I mean, like a simple argument right here, right? Like if the government is giving out more money to people and they have more money to spend, and advertisers have more consumers to target because more people have more money in their pockets, then Facebook should be getting more advertising dollars. So there is a correlation between the government spending and Facebook. I know I'm stretching the example a little bit, but you get the point, right? If more people have money, because more people are getting entitlement benefits, more people can spend, more advertisers can target those people with ads. Facebook can make more money off advertising. Same thing with Google, et cetera. So I don't think if we decrease government spending, corporate earnings necessarily fall off a cliff. But yes, there will be some decrease in those earnings, but that will give us a more accurately priced stock market that is based on earnings multiples, not massive levels of government spend that are just obviously unsustainable. And I think just like in general, if you just care about like the health of America, you probably care about that more than the market, as painful as it will be. And who knows, maybe the market actually reacts positively towards that, because you get so much spending that goes down, the market gets more efficient, and then bond yields come down because people have less expectations for higher rates. You get inflation to come down, because growth slows down. So there's some short-term pain, but you actually do get some opening up of the system. Like, I can see it go both ways. I could also see the recession scenario happening to get to this Goldilocks zone I'm talking about. But I guess tomorrow on April 2nd, we're going to find out if it actually is going to be that bad. How do you fix the deficit with huge tax cuts for the rich? You don't. I mean, it's a good point. You've got to find another way to collect that tax money, or we've got to outgrow. And right now, I still don't think we know what's going to happen. Are we actually going to outgrow the deficit and we're going to be able to unleash this golden age of America that Trump is talking about, S&P 500 about to go green right here, and allow all these new jobs, et cetera, to be formed? Or are the tariffs going to hinder that level of growth? I mean, we're going to find out basically within a couple months, dude. Like if universal tariffs go into effect tomorrow, within a couple months, we will start to see the effects of how much of this is actually helping the economy. And if there is conclusive data to show that tariffs are horrible for whatever reason, like let's just say it's like 1 + 1 = 2 type of objective, like no Republican or MAGA person could even deny how bad tariffs are if the data ends up going that way. I really wonder what the administration's next move is going to be. Because do you just go down with the ship and you say, nope, it's working. You guys don't know what you're looking at here. You know, like you can ignore the data. Tariffs will be working. Or do you pivot and say, yeah, we made a mistake. Tariffs are not working and we're going to switch to something else. The one thing about Trump, and you know this if you've watched Trump for the past couple of years, he doesn't say sorry ever. Like that's part of his bravado. He never apologizes for anything. So to get an apology out of him if tariffs are not working, I don't think we're going to get that. Which means, I don't know. I don't know how bad it goes. If it actually doesn't work and they need to pivot for the sake of the midterms, I mean, how bad does it actually go down? Because he's not going to say sorry. He's not going to act like it's not going to work either. So I think we're going to have to look at the hard data to see how bad actually is it going to be. Michael says, how can you hate the tariffs if you're American? We're done helping the whole world and are asking to be paid back. I don't disagree with that philosophically. I actually agree with Trump's premise that we need to get paid for helping the world and that we can't be paying these insane tariffs on alcohol going to India for no reason. But it comes down to how bad does the trade war end up getting? Because look, at the end of the day, this is kind of what Noto said on his long SoFi post last night. He was like, look, no matter what happens, the buck stops with me, right? If SoFi goes up or down, or we release products, we don't release products, you blame the CEO. Same thing with Trump. Philosophically, even if we need to reciprocate with these tariffs, if it doesn't work, if it just becomes a full-on trade war that turns into shit, the blame's going to go to Trump. And all the success would go to Trump as well. So it's kind of just what he has to deal with. Again, I don't think we enter a doomsday scenario with tariffs, but I'm just curious how the administration reacts if it starts going against them. But if it starts going for them, then, you know, it's a W. It's just a question of seeing how it ends up playing out. so now we like Noto's post. That's the one thing I liked about Noto in that post. He took some responsibility. He was like, look, everything comes down to me because I'm the CEO. I was just like, dude, why are you writing this post? Like, go actually build some buzz for like, I've never seen a public CEO write that many sentences justifying how hard he's working. It's like, no, dude, we know you're working hard. No one's saying so Noto's not working hard. We're just saying that you're not communicating any of the hard work, and some of the hard work might be misplaced. Like, it's been 3 years. We don't have level 1 options on SoFi. And like, yes, that's not a majority of their business, but people care about that. Dude, it shows people, do you care or do you not? People were waiting for tax lots on Robinhood for the past couple of years. They finally delivered it last year. And I talked to a lot of people who were just fully ready to leave Robinhood if they didn't have tax lots, because it makes a big difference when you buy and sell stocks if you can pick which lot of shares you're selling. Schwab, Fidelity, all of this is basic stuff. Robinhood didn't have that. They brought the features that people wanted, right? So I think at some level, it can't be that hard either. You can't tell me that it's super hard to introduce like level 1 options also. And that's what really pisses people off. It's like, this stuff isn't hard if you're a tech company. If you're a tech company, this stuff should be relatively easy, or at the very least not take 5 years. And so I think with Noto, it's more about execution than his long essays. The other thing I didn't like about that post is that I don't think we're going to hear from him after that. I think we got that big ass essay. I don't think we're going to get any podcast from him. Vlad literally did a podcast yesterday with Bankless, which is a crypto podcast. Like, the dude just had a freaking gold event, and less than a week later, he's doing another independent media podcast because he knows distribution is what gets the message out there. And I don't think Noto understands that yet. I think Noto is just relying on like the market waking up to see SoFi's undervalued, but I don't know if it's that easy for that to just play out like that, especially in this macro. Tesla right here, 271. We got a little bit of a red candle, up 4.86%. Newsmax continues to pump 70% on the day. 141.85. It got to a high of 190. Now it's at 140. Celsius is still green, 2%. Robinhood turns green. The Q's turn green. Nvidia is just about to turn green. SoFi's green. Google's green, up 2%. Google getting some love. Amazon 191, and then Palantir 84.50. That is up 0.12% on the day. Fernando says, I feel like tariffs would have worked many, many years ago when the world did anything we said, loved us, and feared us more than God and saw us as big brother. Times are different now. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I also think that, and this is the part I've just been confused about for a long time, Trump wants to bring back a ton of manufacturing jobs, but those are not the best types of jobs. So if the goal of tariffs is to get companies to build in America, like those just aren't the best jobs. And we know that. And in the future, those jobs won't exist when you have robots. So it's like, we're spending a lot of time to bring back jobs that are not the most amazing jobs in the world. There's a reason they were outsourced for, what was it, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, around about that time. And our economy has turned into a services-based economy over a manufacturing economy. And so I don't know how relevant manufacturing jobs are really going to be over the next decade. And realistically, how many companies are going to flip their supply chains overnight to build new manufacturing plants in America? Like, I don't know. But that seems to be the tone of this administration. We got an update on tariffs right here. Let's take a look at this. And then we will keep.
$1 value.
Narrowed some losses, of course, as we get set.
And so we're White House. What do we know, Megan?
Hey, Sarah, I'll start with what we know for sure. That's that tomorrow at 4 p.m. in the Rose Garden is when we will hear from President Trump with his official announcement on what he plans to do on reciprocal tariffs. But what we also know, based on my talking with White House officials earlier this morning, is that deliberations for that decision are still ongoing. The plan is still up in the air. There are meetings scheduled today where they will continue to talk about the different options that are on the table and that no options have yet been taken off the table. I'm told that there are three main options being considered. The first is sort of a blanket across the board tariff, potentially as high as 20% on all U.S. imports. The second option is sort of multiple tiers of rates, something like a few different buckets that countries could fall into, maybe 10, 15, 20%, and multiple tiers in that way, but keeping it simple. The third option is, of course, the most complicated, but the one we had been talking about the most, of sort of this custom rates on a country by country basis, depending on the trade barriers that they have up. I can tell you guys, we are unlikely to get any firm details on what exactly is coming until that 4 p.m. event tomorrow. One of the reasons one White House official told me that things are coming down to the wire is because the White House is watching and the president is watching how other countries are responding to the threat of these reciprocal tariffs. So just for a couple of examples here, they're talking about Vietnam, which has already cut tariffs on goods like cars, chicken, liquefied natural gas. India is also considering cutting up to 55% tariffs on up to 55% of all of its imports. Mexico, for example, yesterday worked with the U.S. government. There were some arrests, some sanctions, I should say, regarding the Sinaloa cartel and fentanyl. The White House is also talking about Japanese investment. So all of that coming into play here, guys, as the White House decides how exactly they want to tackle on a country by country basis, potentially all of these trade barriers. Guys?
And do we know anything, Megan, about whether the non-tariff barriers are also going to be targeted, like back taxes or exchange rates or other sort of unfair taxes for U.S. companies abroad?
Yep, absolutely. The latest that we know is that all of that is being taken into account. But we've heard a lot from the president in the last week. I'm sure you guys have heard him say this several times about being more generous or more lenient than other countries are being. And what White House officials told us last week was what the president means by that is that even though he's considering all of the non-tariff barriers, he might not go as high in terms of responding as the White House thinks that they need to. So if they think that because of all the non-tariff barriers in Europe, for example, things that would include the VAT and other barriers, if they thought an equal reciprocal measure might be 80% tariff, that they might decide to be more lenient and go with something like a 25% tariff. So we are expecting all of that to be considered, but maybe not on an equal, equivalent basis, especially because the administration had always been clear that they were going to be the final arbiter. They were going to be the ones deciding about what an equal rate would be.
Certainly explains some of the price action as the market's trying to keep all those possibilities in mind. Megan, thank you, Megan Cassell today. Meantime, sticking with tariffs, companies have been weighing in on the impact riding into the Trump administration. Our CNBC senior economics reporter, Steve Leisman, went through some of those comments and has more on each side of the debate. Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Carl. From lumber importers worried about higher prices to steel manufacturers complaining about foreign subsidies and dumping, the White House got over 750 comments on these reciprocal tariffs. Our team of producers and myself, we all poured over about half of these. And some businesses said they thought the unfair trading system puts their livelihoods at constant risk. Others warned new tariffs would cost jobs and hike consumer prices. Well, we totaled it all up what we read. We found that 52% of the sample, nearly 400 comments, they don't like the tariffs, and 48% approve. It was definitely affected by those in.
So it's a bit 50-50 there, right? If you're a company that has been affected by tariffs for the past decade, yeah, you want to see tariffs be deployed in a reciprocal fashion. But if you're a company where your margins are already getting hit and you know these tariffs are going to hurt, you're probably not approving of them. So Trump has not lost all of the small business support on this, but the way they implement the tariffs, I think, are going to be really important. We are going green, though, folks. We're going green. Rocket Lab's green, Celsius green, Hoodie 4214, Nvidia's green, SoFi's green, Google's green, S&P is green, back to 560. Nice to be back at that 560 level. Someone asked, what is Nvidia's short percentage? It is 1.1%. There are 258 million shares short on Nvidia. As of March 14th, 1.1%. So Nvidia short float's still very low compared to the rest of the market. Amit asked the question, do you trust the green? All right, let's ask the question. By the way, on the previous poll, 79% of you said no, you would not buy Openai at a $300 billion market cap, which is fair. Okay, do you trust the green? Do you trust the green? I kind of feel, and we talked about this yesterday on the market close, I really do feel like April 2nd is priced in, barring Trump announcing anything absolutely insane. And 20% universal tariffs is not insane because that was announced basically in the Wall Street Journal on Sunday and then reiterated today by the Washington Post. That's priced in. The market knows best. So one beautiful thing about the market, everything is usually priced in. They've got to really get hit off guard for something to whiplash to the downside or to the upside by not being priced in. It feels like the majority of the announcements should be priced in. So Trump's going to have to really try hard tomorrow, especially given the market is down 5% from 576 or 3%. Pound right here, 85, to get people to get more upset. And I don't know if he can do that. The 10-year right now currently is at 4.16. Continues to come down. Continues to come down. That is good. Even though we're going green on equities, 10-year continues to stay down. How many of you said you don't trust it? 61%. All right. Everyone's so skeptical. I can't blame you. I only trust it because I think tariffs are now priced in, or at least April 2nd is priced in. Like, I think the worst announcement he could make tomorrow is priced in. Granted, it could be worse than expected. But like, there's no reason for us to be going green unless this is truly algos trying to pump it up to get people excited to then dump it on them by tomorrow, which, yeah, that could happen also. But we took a hit on Sunday night. We haven't really recovered that much from that hit. Just a little recovery. But I think the extent of the pain hopefully was seen on Sunday night. Then again, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? It's so crazy, dude, because it's like 2024, there was a consistent narrative and story. And as long as you just followed the narrative play out, you could have some understanding of what's going on with the macro. It was complicated because we didn't cut rates until September, but still, you could make sense of the data. This tariff thing, like, at least my job of putting the pieces of the puzzle together to try to present it in a meaningful way, it ends up resulting in me saying, well, we'll see what happens on April 2nd, because there's literally not enough pieces of the puzzle that I can put together to make a cogent argument about what I think is going to happen. It's a lot of assumptions based on what might happen or what might not happen. What did Canada's PM just talk? We put in place retaliatory measures against the U.S. if there are any additional measures put against Canada on Wednesday. Okay, there you go. This Carney guy from Canada, he's not a fan of Trump, from what I understand. He's replacing Trudeau. So, yeah, it's not like him and Trump necessarily have the best relationship either. How can it be priced in then? Well, look, when we fell to 546 on the S&P yesterday, off the headlines of April 2nd, the only way it would not be priced in my opinion, is if we got a separate headline saying the tariffs are not going to be as bad as we thought they were going to be. In the past 24 hours, or should I say 36 hours, we've gotten headline after headline after headline. Trump himself last night basically reiterated, no, I'm serious. The tariffs are going to go into effect and they are going to be, in his words, Liberation Day. But the point is they're going to be pretty aggressive. So if we haven't had any mainstream headlines take away from the Sunday futures headline from the Wall Street Journal, which is what caused the market to hit those new lows of 2025, then there's nothing for the market to get excited about. Like, the market shouldn't be pumping to 560 if they really think tariffs are going to be that bad from 546, because there's no new narrative that, oh, the Trump administration is going to be light on tariffs. Because all of them over the past 36 hours have said, no, like, or it's going to be aggressive, reciprocal, 20% across the board, $600 billion in revenue. We're going to bring up a lot of tariffs. And so that's why I think it is more priced than not. But then again, who knows what they're going to say tomorrow. That's going to really determine everything. Carney's a central banker and he has to be anti-Trump because of the election. Carney is friends with Bruce Flatt of Brookfield. Yeah, I even looked a lot into Carney, to be honest. I need to do a little bit more research on the guy. That Pierre guy in Canada has no chance though, right? Like, he's not going to be the next PM. Because I think like a month ago, he was gaining a lot of momentum. But it doesn't look like he's going to be the guy. Rocket Lab right here, right above 18. Tesla, wow, 273. Look at that, up 5.7%. So if it is Carney, then it will continue to be led by the liberals, based on what it looks like. We need an executive order from Trump to make credit card companies increase credit limits by 25%. Yeah, well, they're thinking of putting a cap on the amount of interest that credit cards can charge you. I don't think that bill is going to go through, but Trump did say he wants to do that. So does Bernie Sanders. They agree on that. But I don't know if that'll play out. Andrew says, I'm telling you guys, Tesla will beat delivery estimates. Well, it depends, because delivery estimates range from 360 to 400. If you're saying 360, I agree with you. They'll beat it. If you're saying 400, I don't know, bro. 400 is going to be tough, especially with these European numbers that we're seeing. I mean, the brand was not this damaged in Q1 of 2024 when they did 385,000. So now with the brand damage, along with the actual data we're seeing from Europe, the only thing that I think can get them above 400 is if the excess Model Y inventory pushes them over the edge. So, I mean, look, I bought a Tesla. I mean, I'm sure a lot of other people in the country did, but did they have that many more excess Model Ys to push them over the edge? They would need at least 25,000 of them. And I don't even know if they had that many. If they did, then yeah, I guess Q1's going to be good. Or at least definitely against expectations. But that number also will be determined tomorrow as well. Is MAGA buying Teslas? You know, Gary Black actually put out some content today. He put out a new note. And he basically said that that's his thesis. He thinks that the Trump endorsement of Tesla is now getting many Trump supporters to buy Tesla. So this is what he wrote right here. Which, look, I don't think this thesis is that wrong. I mean, Trump has a big brand and he can influence a lot of people. He says, after tomorrow's expected weak Tesla Q1 deliveries report, we believe the Tesla media narrative will change from political protests taking their toll on Tesla demand to the new Model Y changeover is now complete, and Tesla's again seeing strong demand as Republicans follow President Trump's lead and buy a Tesla. And then he talked about Tesla China being very strong numbers, which is a reason the stock's probably up 5% right now. I mean, if you isolate all the Democrats, but you get Republicans that want to support, I mean, maybe it balances it out. Maybe it balances it out. Oh, wow. Look at this. DOJ is looking to seek the death penalty for Luigi in the United Healthcare CEO murder case. Bitcoin above 85,000. Yeah, you know, this DOJ and this administration is not messing around. We had Pam Bondi yesterday, the new attorney general. She came out and they found the person who firebombed a Tesla dealership in Colorado, and she's going for 20 years.
I've made it clear, if you take part in the wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla properties, we will find you, arrest you, and put you behind bars. Today, I'm proud to announce that the Department of Justice has unsealed federal charges against another Tesla attacker. We've charged Cooper Frederick in the firebombing of a Tesla dealership that occurred on March 7th in Loveland, Colorado. All of these cases are a serious threat to public safety. Therefore, there will be no negotiating. We are seeking 20 years in prison. The crime was committed in Colorado, and thanks to the great investigative work by the FBI, the defendant was arrested in Plano, Texas. Let this be a warning. You can run, but you cannot hide. Justice is coming.
They are taking it seriously, bro. They are taking it pretty damn seriously for anyone who wants to vandalize or burn down Teslas. Tesla right here, 274. That's up 5.8%. We got everything running right here. Rocket Lab up 2%. The Qs up 1%. Nvidia. All right, there we go. That's what we've been waiting for. Some greeny green. Target is up. Google's up. SoFi is about to hit $12 again. Grab's about to go green. DJT is up. SoundHound is up. Newsmax is up 70%. Williams Sonoma is up 1.3%. Nubank's up 3%. Hims is up 3%. General Motors is up 1%. Vistra and VRT, they're both up about 4%. American Express is up. Where's AMD? AMD is about to go green. It's not there yet, but Nvidia is green. And then Robinhood trying to touch $43 again as we go green. Again, 59% of you say you don't trust the green, but I think 100% of you like seeing the green, at least. It kind of feels a little artificial. I'm not going to lie, bro. Right before April 2nd, for us to, I don't even know if I would call this a pump, but for us to go, like, let's see how, I mean, like if Nvidia gets to 115, I don't know. That definitely feels like a pump. That's basically Friday's prices after that China Huawei headline came out. I don't know, dude. Right before April 2nd, like as much as I would love to see it, I would also feel a little nervous if we pumped right before the event. I don't know. Let's see where it goes. Kind of feels a little bit artificial intelligence. Yes, exactly. Chubb hit an all-time high. Wow. Freaking Berkshire. 302 on Chubb Limited. Buffett doesn't lose. Oh boy. Mexico's president just said the response to U.S. tariffs will come on April 3rd. Of course. Of course. Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? More tariffs. More tariffs. All right. So Canada said they already started taking reciprocal approaches to anticipate April 2nd. Mexico's getting ready to respond on April 3rd. The EU is probably going to be responding pretty soon. It's gonna be a trade war, bro. Now, it might be a short-lived trade war, but it's going to be a little trade war. And I know I want to say that the market's priced it in, but it still feels a little weird to see a pump coming right before this if we do end up pumping. Again, we still are down from last week at 576. So it's not like we're reclaiming the 200-day moving average or we're at these fancy levels. Like we're still pretty lower from where we were before, even if we're not at literally 2025 lows. Everyone's going to retaliate. The question is who blinks first. Yeah, I agree. And I think eventually someone blinks, bro, and we stop this. Like, dude, we wouldn't like if every country just like didn't want to deal with the reciprocal tariffs, they would just take off their tariffs or they would significantly decrease them, right? And that would be an end to this. Like if India's tariffs went from freaking 50% to 2%, I don't think the Trump administration would even care. But India's not doing that. The question is, when does India feel the pain? Or when does Europe feel the pain? Or when does China feel the pain? And the pain is so much that they're like, all right, fine, we'll do it. Because right now, they're not showing any signs of capitulating. How bad does it have to get? And how bad does the market have to get for maybe Trump to knock on their door and blink first and be like, all right, are you guys ready to negotiate now? You know? Aditya says, do you think it's green because the worst of the tariffs are priced in? I think we're green because the worst of the current narrative of tariffs are priced in based on the headlines we've seen over the past 36 hours. I don't know if tomorrow Trump comes out and says something that no one was expecting, how the market will react. And so that's why a lot of this stuff, could be a little bit of fake green if he says something crazy tomorrow. Amit, call your uncles and tell them to lower the tariffs in India. Unfortunately, I don't have that control. But we do. Dude, India does have some ridiculous tariffs, bro. Like some stupid tariff. When I was researching it the other day, I was like, how are we, it is kind of insane that we're tariffing the United States that much. And I'm sure the story is similar across the entire world. So again, I get why Trump is upset about the tariffs. I just really wonder if this whole plan he has will actually play out. Nvidia trying to go for 110. SoFi is not at 12, but it looks like it's going to get there. Robinhood wants 43. Celsius wants 37. Rocklab 1831. Newsmax still up 60% of the day. SoundHound went from red 3% to now green. And then Tesla 274. That's up 5.87%. Shout out to my uncle in the chat. He doesn't have the power to reduce the tariffs. Well, he's in Singapore and he does not have to pay any capital gains tax either. So he loves investing in the United States. My cousin she left this morning, but she was visiting us and she now lives in California. She immigrated from India. So she's having to deal with the onslaught of taxes that she has to navigate now. And we were just like, dude, like our uncle in Singapore pays nothing on these. Like he can sell as many puts as he wants, buy as many calls, buy a stock today, sell it 2 minutes later, no taxes. Like it is just like New Jersey has pretty high taxes, California has pretty high taxes, and then Singapore has nothing. Just nothing on capital gains. If the United States, if they ever got rid of the capital gains tax, which look, it sounds crazy, but we don't make that much money off capital gains. I think it's maybe like 100 billion, 150 max. Like it's not that crazy. I think the level of growth we would open up if we just get rid of that and the amount of money that would enter our system, bro, it would be insane. It would be absolutely insane. Now, we're never going to do it because this country will not let the rich get away with selling their assets and paying no taxes on it. But if we did, it would be crazy. Michelle says, Amit, I got my friend Mary watching you with me today. She knows nothing about the markets, but we're listening. Mary, thank you for watching. Appreciate you being here with Michelle. Hopefully you enjoy hearing me talking about tariffs, if you care about them at all. And thanks for being part of the show. Dude, I'm telling you, the average person, they don't care about tariffs. Like I was even asking my sister about it yesterday. And she was like, why does that matter? I was like, cause like things are going to get expensive. She's like, why? That's like walk her down the whole thing. She's like, oh, is that why the stock market's down? I'm like, yeah, but there's also other reasons. She's like, okay, can you just make it go up again? I'm like, no, I can't just make it go up. That's not how it works, dude. Because she was, again, February when Hood was 65 and Palantir was 125, she was living on a different planet, bro. She was like, oh, markets are easy. She's like, this is great. And, things have changed since then. So she's not as happy anymore, but it's the nature of the markets. Karp is not live right now, dude. You guys got to be better on April Fools. You got to be better. I already fell for like 7 of the jokes this month. I'm not falling for that one. And I already fell for the Karp is on Bloomberg in 20 minutes joke. I really did think he was on Bloomberg because he did a video he did the investor day with AIG. So I was like, oh, he's probably following it up on Bloomberg, but I should have known better, dude. Like whenever there's a Karp interview, I usually know about it. Like you tend to find out about this stuff like at least a couple hours before, if not a couple of days before. But I did not know that. I did not know that. Yeah, you can't do no sound or muted. We've been through that enough today as well. Your sister sounds ungrateful. Dude, 1000% she's ungrateful. Absolutely zero gratitude for the fact that her portfolio is still doing incredibly well, even if it's not from the highs of February. But yeah, she just wants stocks to go back up again. I'm like, so do I. So does everybody. But like, take some time. It doesn't just work like that. Tesla right here, 274, still holding on to some green momentum right here. All right. I think that's it. I think that's it for the day. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think we have any other headlines. Tomorrow is going to be the big one. Super, 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 super big one. We're going to see what the heck happens with tariffs. It's not going to happen until 3 p.m., so the market will have plenty of time to react to everything playing out. But tomorrow is going to be important. April 2nd, 2025. Only freaking investors and like anyone who cares about the economy is going to be super glued to this. The rest of the world is going to go about their life like normal, but we are going to be listening to every freaking syllable of this tariff policy, because that's going to be explaining what the hell happens to the broader markets. Justin says, awesome stream. See you in the 6 in a few weeks. Yes. So it's looking like, well, actually, no, let me ask you guys this question before we do word of the day. So for those that are in Toronto, would you guys rather do the 18th and 19th or the 25th and 26th? I think the 25th and 26th, which is the last weekend of April, because the 18th through 20th is Easter and Good Friday. So I think we do 25th through the 27th. That's what I'm thinking. So if anyone's in Toronto, I mean, I'll probably, why do I say it Toronto? I need to say, I'm definitely saying it like a gringo, dude. Like I need to say it better. But I will be posting the link soon, but I think the last weekend of April. I think that's the best weekend. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of 25, 20. All right, perfect. All right, cool. Last weekend of April, it looks like we're doing Toronto. And it'll be my first time in the 6. So we'll do it. Yeah, I think so. I asked a couple other people yesterday. It looks like the last weekend. Okay, so word of the day. Word of the day. What do we got? Word of the day is humbug. Humbug.
Humbug.
To delude, deceive, or fool. The only humbug I remember is bah humbug. Right? Like that's from the Scrooge or whatever. The email claimed I won a prize, but I knew they were trying to humbug me. The startup humbugged customers with flashy marketing and no real product. To deceive or fool. Oh, this makes sense because it's April Fool's. Okay, it took me a minute to get that. You guys probably made that connection really quick. It took me a minute to realize, oh yeah, it's April Fool's. That's why. All right, there you go. Bah humbug. That is the word of the day. All right, a lot of you guys are liking 25th, 26th. Let me confirm with a bunch of people. I think that gives me enough time to get everything set up. 18th is actually a bit early, so it gets an extra week to get everything going. And then, yeah, I think we do Toronto. I'm not falling for this one. You're not going to get me to fall for it. Brett just posted a video with robots juggling. I'm not falling for it. I'm not falling for it. You guys got me enough today. Probably will get me later on the market close as well. All right, cool. So I'll be back for the market close. Technical Tuesday, we should have today. I'll confirm with Jason, but I'm pretty sure we will be doing it. And yeah, we'll be live for like 3 hours on the close, going through all the technicals, try to see where he thinks the best levels are on some of these prices. And then we'll go from there. You guys are trying right here. It's not working, bro. Trump is live. SpaceX just IPO'd. Like there's, I fell enough for them. I fell if when the stream ends, rewind to the first 30 seconds. For those that didn't watch, I literally fell for my mic is muted. So you guys got me enough on this one today. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys on the market close for Technical Tuesday. Bye, everybody. See you guys in a bit.